Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bradenton City Council meeting, Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, at 8:30 a.m. in the City Hall Council chambers. At this time, we will ask Pastor Don Steriano with Kingdom Life Church, Christian Church to come forward and do our prayer, and then I will ask all veterans in the room as we get forward, and of course all firefighters and police officers to start the pledge for us. Thank you.
Good morning. Would you bow your heads, please? Father of heaven, I just thank you for our city leaders and everyone that works for the city of Bradenton. I bless them, bless every front of their life, our citizens, all those that are in this meeting and the agenda and all the things that will be navigated through. I just pray for your wisdom and your guidance and your peace. And Lord, I just am reminded this morning of your scripture that says your yoke is easy and your burdens are light. And if there's anyone in the sound of my voice that has a heaviness today, I pray, Holy Spirit, you would just lift that. I pray, Father, for your kingdom to come and your will to be done. All that's done and said here this morning, in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Chiefs and others?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Don and all. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk?
The first item on the agenda this morning is a proclamation, which I'll read on behalf of the mayor. Tribute to Heroes Day, September 11th, 2025. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, the United States suffered and endured one of the most horrific acts in our history. The attack of our homeland by terrorists who hijacked 4 jetliners in a carefully executed plan to fill Americans with fear and insecurity. And whereas the American people refused to be cowed and stood proud and honored their lost countrymen with strength and dignity. And whereas 343 firefighters and 60 police officers lost their lives on that fateful day as they responded to the calls of the injured and trapped. They did not hesitate. They did not falter. They went forward regardless of the risk and are true heroes. And whereas September 11th, 2001 proved to the world that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. They are many firefighters, emergency services, and law enforcement personnel who responded on that day and are ready to respond again whenever and wherever they are needed. And whereas the courageous and unselfish acts that day proved again that our country is truly the land of the free and home of the brave. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jean Brown, as mayor of the city of Bradenton, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2025 as Tribute to Heroes Day, and urge all citizens to reflect and remember those lost but never forgotten, and thank those emergency response personnel who risk their lives daily. Their spirit endures in the breeze that lifts the stars and stripes each and every day. God bless America and all those that reside in her land, from sea to shining sea. Signed, Jean Brown, Mayor.
Thank you. Chiefs, who's going to come up and both go? Yeah.
I'll start out by saying that, we truly appreciate the attention given to 9/11 still. And in reality, we never want to forget that day. But in reality, firefighters and police officers are still losing their lives daily across this country. There's a website that I subscribe to, and we get updates daily on such events. And it's near every day where across the country lives are lost. So not only on that day, I still remember I was on duty at Fire Station 1. What a day that was, where we all, went into lockdown mode and the things that occurred after, but definitely a day to remember, and we thank you.
Thank you all for presenting this today, Mayor especially. Yeah, like Tim, I remember We actually had an award ceremony that day, and the question was, are we gonna do it or not? And we were sort of midway, and we continued it, but it was tough. Maria and I have been lucky enough to travel the country, but the one spot that we've hit now twice in our travels is the Flight 93 Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And that is by far the most reverent field I've ever been to. It's just, they were the first, those volunteers were the first to sign up to fight the war on terror. So thank you again for this.
Thank you. Council, any comments? All right, I'll say a few words then. One of the things that we've got to always celebrate this day, because it's not celebrating what happened to us, but it's celebrating those individuals that lost their lives that day. Some of us had family members around there, and I've said this before, fortunately my cousin is NYPD at that time, and he was in the building, one of the buildings, and got out. But my aunt didn't know for almost 24 hours whether he was in that building or not. But he has since retired from the military. But when you think about the people, and we met somebody last night that was in the building, and there's a firefighter, and lost both his legs from its situation and has lung cancer, but he's still there, and he's still proud of his time in the World Trade Centers and that, and you only see him once a year now, but it was great to see his courage, and he said he would run right back in there again, and I know all of you would, and that's what our first responders do, is when we're running away, you're running towards, because you got families, you got people that you deal with, and it's always difficult, but you still have signed up for that, and you will do it, so all of you. So people don't realize when you look at cities and places around the country that are criticizing our police officers and firefighters and first responders, that'll never happen in the city of Bradenton, and I will stand up for that as long as it needs to be, because that will never happen. You'll never hear defund, and that's going to be something that we're proud of what we've done. So, and if anybody has any questions, because now there's a full generation of 20-something-year-olds that weren't born. So if we don't continue to celebrate this day, which we will tomorrow at 9 a.m. at Rossi Park, that's our commercial for the audience here, but we will forget. And we know what happens when you forget something. It gets repeated. So I'm proud of our country. I'm proud of what you guys do, and we will always stand up for that. So thank you. Huh? Let's roll. Together. Does it look like we're too far apart, or should we get up there? Give me some. Get in the middle.
Can you see him?
Half the time, you can see it anyway. So
Now I feel bad. Now we're using it to source it. Yeah.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
The next item on the agenda is a presentation by Dr. Tomasco on source identification study on bacteria in Palmasola Bay.
Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll leave that alone. For the record, my name is Dave Tomasco. I'm the director of the Sarasota Bay Estuary Program. And hi, Jane. So I was asked to give a presentation about the issues of horses and bacteria, and I thought I'd give this presentation with a little bit more context as well to cover a variety of topics, give you kind of like an update on Palmasola Bay. So let's get going. So the question that's been raised by some members of the public is, do horses pose a risk to the health of Palmasola Bay? So here's some pictures of the horses that are out there, in case you're not familiar with it. I think most people are, that horses are actually ridden in the part of Palmasola Bay north of the causeway on the eastern end. So the issues that have been raised that we thought were appropriate to talk to you about is nutrient enrichment. So this bay, Sarasota Bay, is cleaner now than it's been in a long time. We've just had about a 19% increase in seagrass coverage. That's a lot more food for manatees and sea turtles, 70 million more fish probably in this bay. But Palmasola Bay is one of the 5 segments that we have to worry about. So what is the health of Palmasola Bay in terms of nutrients? You know, can you make Palmasola Bay so green that it becomes sort of like, you know, the Indian River Lagoon, which nobody wants to have this bay turn into that. Physical damage. Horses can go and tromp around, and I'm not familiar with horses. I tell you, I just don't know horses that well, but I know they weigh a lot more than I do. And when they walk around, there's a possibility of physical damage. So we're looking into that as well. But the bigger issue is pathogens. So pathogens would include things that can make humans sick. Pathogen would mean disease causing. So we're going to cover all these topics, what we have right now. So first off, this is our report card for the health of the bay. And it kind of incorporates a bunch of different things. It's been peer reviewed. It's been presented to our technical advisory committee. It's been presented at EPA conferences. And the blue and green colors represent healthy conditions. Yellow is caution. Red is like, stop what you're doing. Something's going wrong. And in the lower bay in particular, 2013 to 2019, things weren't going well. We had the worst red tide in decades. We had over 1 billion gallons of wastewater overflows that are occurring. You guys have your challenges with the city of Bradenton. We had 5 events of over 100 million gallon discharges in the lower part of the bay, which is much more than you're dealing with. But if you look at Palmasola Bay, it's blue. And so what this indicates is, like, from us, the health of the bay as a whole seems to be fairly good. But some people might say, well, that's your report card. I don't know how you did it. The report card's been out there for review for a couple of years. But this is the data behind it. So on the left-hand side is the amount of nitrogen. If you want your lawn to look green, if you want your citrus tree to grow fast, add nitrogen. If you want your bay to look green and you want algae to grow quicker, add nitrogen. So we don't want that. So we're ratcheting back on nitrogen. That's our strategy. That's why this bay is cleaner than it was. The blue line represents the state of Florida's adopted water quality standard for nitrogen. You can see we are not only well below that, we are actually moving downward. The individual blue dots represent annual averages. That's how we manage Sarasota Bay and Tampa Bay and Chesapeake Bay. And the red line is what's called the 2-point moving average, which shows the overall trend. So the nutrient concentrations in that bay, and ending in 2024, which is last year we have complete data for, is not bad. It's actually getting better. The graphic on the right-hand side is the amount of algae in the water. That's phytoplankton. The tiny floating stuff that makes the water green, that's the reason why you lost so much seagrass. That's why you lost 3,000 manatees, mostly on the East Coast from starvation the last couple of years. That's moving downward as well. So that is indicating that the bay as a whole is not showing signs of a problem. This last one is seagrass coverage. It's kind of like the biological indicator of the canary in the coal mine. Seagrass meadows will decrease if the water quality gets worse. We're not seeing that. Over the last 18 years, we have more seagrass than we had. And the last 2 years, from 2022 to 2024, we gained 40 acres. So as a whole, we're not going around trying to find out what's wrong with Palmasola Bay. The bay as a whole seems to be doing fairly well, and it's been that way for at least 20 years. The physical damage. So when horses are walking around in a place like Sarasota Bay or anywhere, they weigh a lot. And so we were trying to find out, is that something that's going to be a problem to the bay? If so, is it localized? How big of a deal is it? So it's pretty obvious that there are problems in terms of, like, this. The seagrass meadows are damaged by horses. They are. And you can see this from here, and hopefully you can see a little bit better in this close-up right there. You can see this kind of circular pattern and the linear trail through there. So the horses are damaging the seagrass beds in that area. I mean, they just are. But this is a picture taken south of the causeway, and notice these houses. That used to be a mangrove fringe. Those are gone. And there's no seagrasses damaged there because the seagrasses are gone because it's a boating channel coming into Port of Suena. If you want to see damage to seagrass meadows, you can see it on your phone. Go and look at Google Maps north of Emerson Point, and you can see all the prop scars. That's one of my favorite places to boat and fish, is north of Palmasola Bay and north of Emerson Point and Terracea. Boats go through there and prop scar all the time. And so, like, horses are causing damage, so are canals, so are seawalls, so are boats. Everything is causing damage to the bay to some degree. But again, we gained 40 acres in the last 2 years, so it's not so serious that we're actually losing a lot of a habitat. But the pathogens were the thing that we thought was going to be a lot of people interested in. So the thing to understand is, in the state of Florida, there are 3 fecal indicator bacteria. They are E. coli, fecal coliform bacteria and enterococci. Enterococci is shorthand for bacteria that are small, spherical, and they're within the genus of Enterococcus. There are dozens of species. Some of those species are specific to fecal material. Some of them have nothing to do with fecal material. They can come from decomposing vegetation. And that's the case for all three of Florida's indicator bacteria. A couple of years ago, I did a study for Charlotte County, and we could get 20 million fecal coliform bacteria from decomposing grass clippings. It had nothing to do with any fecal material. So it's shorthand, but it's not specific. So there's two standards that are appropriate to look at. One of them is the bathing beach standard, which is 70. And then there's what's called class 3 marine, or what's oftentimes called swimmable, fishable water. So the bathing beach standard is stricter than the fishable, swimmable. So if you're at a boat ramp, what's the correct criteria for you to worry about? It's not really probably a bathing beach. It's the swimmable, fishable, the 130 value. But we have different locations that are sampled by different entities. DOH samples the bathing beach, which is on the east end of the causeway on the south side. And as you're going, say, from Bradenton towards the Barrier Islands, it's the first thing that you see on the left-hand side. That's the bathing beach that's sampled by DOH. On the north side, where the horses are, that has been sampled by a local NGO, Suncoast Waterkeepers. So I'm going to give you data that's actually a little bit old, because it doesn't matter. If I updated it, you're going to see the same kind of thing, which is this is the south side beach. This is the bathing beach designated, sampled every week by DOH. And what they found in this time period was the vast majority of the samples were good, less than 70. About 8% of the time they were poor. So in general, if you look at the combination of moderate and poor, probably a little bit 20% of the time you don't meet the bathing beach standards for that location. On the north side, it's a higher probability the bacterial levels are going to be higher, because it's not 8% poor and 8% moderate, it's 9% moderate and 58% poor. So there's more often exceedances of a bathing beach criteria at that location where the horses are. But the bacteria are they're not exclusive to horses or humans or mammals or even animals. And so what we thought would make a lot of sense is to basically do a source identification study. So we came to you a while ago talking about a source identification study. We put money in our budget to be able to do that, and we have sampled 2 or 3 times. 3 times. We sampled 3 times. I only have results from the first one because it's really expensive, and the lab to do this is up in Nova Scotia. So they used to be in Miami. So the follow-up study that we did, we used a technique that has been reviewed and accepted by both DEP and EPA. It looks at genetic sequences in the water, and it says this is a bacteria that can come from horses only. This is when it comes from birds. This is when it comes from humans. So the idea is we looked at humans, birds, and horses. We've got 4 sites. We've sampled 3 times now, but we only have results back from 1 of those events. We tried to do it quantitatively. So let's say you do have a hit for horses. We want to find out, are they 50% of the bacteria, are they 5%, or are they 0.5%? Because there's a big difference. If the horses are 50%, you get rid of the horses, the bacterial levels could drop. If they're 0.5%, you can get rid of the horses and the bacterial levels won't drop, because they're just a part of the general noise that's in that system. So we've sampled, and I'm going to show you the results from the first event. And here are the 4 sites. Northeast is where the horses are, southeast the bathing beach, northwest is basically where that little fishing pier dock kind of thing is, and then southeast is just, southwest is just south of there. And so the good news is no hits for humans as a source. So if anyone thinks that the bacterial levels that are there because of a sewage leak, I mean, I've seen on social media, whatever, people talking about this is at nighttime, that's where the county pumps all their sewage. I don't know what that means, but that's just not accurate at all. So not a hit for humans, that's a good thing. At the bathing beach site, we did have a hit for birds. So birds are contributing. And if you spend a lot of time on the beach, you know that birds come and hang out at beaches. So finding a hit for birds as a source of bacteria was not unexpected. A neat study done in Southern California, they could increase the bacterial levels at a bathing beach by throwing crackers onto the sand and attracting seagulls, because when seagulls land and fly, they do things. But 3 of the 4 sites, we had hits for horses. And at all the sites where we had a hit for something we could detect, the levels were what we call detected, not quantifiable. So it's determined that there's something there from that source, but it's such a low abundance that we can't tell how much of it is. And that's kind of like if you're out camping at night and you hear a bunch of noise and you heard a coyote, but you don't know if there's 10 or 5 or 1. You don't know how far away it is. You don't have a decibel reading, but you know there was a coyote. So that's kind of like what we have. We know that there's some bacteria from horses, but the thing is, of those 4 sites, we found horses at 3. But of those 3 sites we found them at, including the bathing beach, the level of bacteria was low enough that it's not out of compliance with bathing beach criteria. So yeah, we found a hit for horses at a place that was still safe to swim. But on the north side, where the horses are, it did exceed the bacteria levels for bathing beaches and class 3. So there are elevated levels of bacteria. There was a hit for horses. There wasn't a hit for humans. I guess that's the way I'd look at it. So how could you have a hit for bacteria from horses at places where the horses aren't? And the answer is, I'll just be pretty straightforward here. Human poop sinks. That's why a toilet works. And horse poop doesn't sink. It floats. And if it floats and the tide is going out, sorry, but if the tide is going out, it's an 18-inch tidal range, it's going to go out underneath that bridge. And if the tide starts to lessen, the wind's coming out of the west, which it does every afternoon in the summertime, that would be a way for some of that bacteria to make it across to that beach. So that's, we think, the most likely way that this happened. I've never seen a horse on the south side, but it looks like some of the bacteria does make it to the south side as well. So we don't have results from our second or third yet. So one of the things that DEP has told us to do for 20 years now is when you have a bacteria problem or a nutrient problem, walk the watershed, walk the area, try to see what other sources could be there. So last week, I walked the entire length of the causeway on the north side and then came to the south side. And so on the north side, you see potential sources of bacteria, which is horses. And we know it's not just a potential, it is a source, unquantifiable. On the south side, which is the bathing beach, there's other potential sources, humans, which we didn't get a hit for, and dogs. You can't really differentiate dogs and humans too well because we share a lot of our bacteria. If you know how dogs greet each other and you know how dogs greet you, this is one of the reasons why it's hard to separate dogs and humans. Didn't know that you would be having these discussions today, but that's just where we are. But there's some other potential sources, and that includes things that aren't fecal at all. The grass clippings that are there as the crews go up and down mowing that, some of that goes into the bay, some of it goes on the sidewalk where the rain will take it into the bay. And again, you can get fecal coliform bacteria from decomposing grass clippings. Decomposing leaf litter. So this is a shot on the south side, kind of close to where the bathing beach is, and it's a little puddle of decomposing vegetation that's draining into the bay. So if you sample that location, whether there's fecal material or not, you're going to have, quote, fecal indicator bacteria. And then the last one on the right is all that rack line. So if you go to that beach, it doesn't look like Coquina Beach. It doesn't look like Manatee Beach. It doesn't look like Siesta Beach. It has a lot of material along the shoreline. It just does. Those seagrass meadows, we have 10,000 acres of seagrass meadows. All that above ground biomass is replaced in the summertime every 30 days. It's a 3% turnover rate. So that rack that you see there, that's not pollution. That's not the seagrass is dying. That's a normal thing that seagrass meadows do. That's why you have a pink shrimp fishery out in the dry tortugas, because the seagrass blades go off somewhere else, sink, and they get eaten by shrimp. So you have a lot of material on the beach, which is possibly one of the reasons why you have elevated levels of bacteria compared to Coquina Beach or some other locations. So what we thought, and this is not my call, we're not a regulatory agency, we don't write permits, we don't fine people. If there could be a way to test this further, because we don't really know how to interpret the results that well, but if it would be possible for some period of time for the horses to be kept away, and if you then sample, like say the horses aren't there for a month, and I'm not saying that, I have no power over this whatsoever, but if the horses could be kept away for a month, you could sample for the bacteria levels, and you could sample for this, and we could sample at 1, 2, and 3. We have the money to do this, and we think this is something that would make sense. And then if the horses come back, we can sample for the bacteria levels on the north side and the south side, and we sample for those. We could analyze and interpret that. There's a couple of ways this could turn out. If you sample, the horses are gone, the bacterial levels drop, and there's no hit for horses, guess what? And then if they come back and we now have elevated levels and the horse hits are there, then you probably are seeing there some sort of contribution, maybe a major contribution. But if the horses go away, you sample and there's no horse hits, and you continue to be higher than bacteria levels for those locations, then guess what? You can get rid of the horses and it probably might not make much of a difference. So we think that this could be a way for you to have a little bit better information about what is the relative health risk, what would be the management implications of doing something about the horse in that area. And there's all sorts of other things you can do, better managing. I think you probably have people that are really good about cleaning up, and there are some people that are not. And I think that some way to like weed out the bad apples from the majority of the good is maybe something that could come out of this. But this is a suggestion. We have no ability to make this happen, but that's roughly what we think would be really helpful information moving forward. And that's all I have.
All right, any specific questions before I go into a couple of opportunities we have here?
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Where it exceeded the swimming level, but you said even though it exceeded swimming, it's still specific horse was not detectable?
No, I apologize. So it's got a little bit confusing. So on the one time that we've gotten results back, we had an exceedance of the bathing beach and the class 3 at this site, the northeast site. And we had a hit for horses here and here and there. But on the time that we had a hit for horses here and there and there, here and there did not exceed the bathing beach criteria.
So any time that you had a hit for the horse, it was always undetectable?
No, yes. Every time we had a hit for the horses, it was unquantifiable.
I'm sorry, yes, thank
Yes.
you. If we have the same bacteria as dogs, is it a safe, leap to say that because you did not detect humans, we did not detect dogs?
It could be, yeah. I think that there are people better than me to answer that particular question, because there might be some specific tests you can do for dogs. But in general, I think one of the best people in this field is a professor named Judy Harwood, I forgot her first name. Valerie Harwood, University of California. I don't know, I was thinking Jody and Judy.
About Susan, her sister.
Valerie Harwood, University of South Florida, and she's the one who told me that it's really difficult to test out humans from dogs because we share so much bacteria.
Right, I'm just trying to, if you
Yeah.
can make that, and that's what I'm wondering from a
It
scientist.
could be that because we didn't have a hit for humans, that we didn't have presence for dogs as well. So, I mean, that could be the case as well.
And then just one more, if some action was taken on this proposal of, I'm not saying you're encouraging anything at all.
Yeah.
But if we did experiment with removing horses for a time period, is there a certain time of year or any other thing, set of criteria that we should be thinking about?
Let me answer that, so it's out there publicly. The horse companies have agreed to pull off the beach from September 8th through October 6th. So for 1 month, so they are off the beach now. And the criteria, when you ask, is there certain criteria timing-wise? Well, obviously, he's doing the testing now. So with the cost of that being taken care of, the horse companies have agreed to do that on their own because they want the true facts. They want the information out there. So they are off the beaches now. And now if there's one-offs, if somebody comes out with their own horse trailer, that's not the horse companies. So this will be some results, and I think Dave has a plan for that.
We had heard that was a possibility. Again, we don't dictate what happens, but if that was a possibility, then what we would do is we would change the rest of our funding to be able to build on that and do sampling at 1, 2, and 3 weeks after they're gone, both the regular bacteria levels and also the testing for horses, and then when they come back, do 1, 2, and 3 weeks. I have no idea how that turns out. I mean, if you see no change in bacteria at all, then why do you think the horses are responsible? And if you do find that they drop down and they come back up, and there could be like a timing issue, it could take some time, but the reality is, I've worked on TMDLs, this, how do you figure out the response to pollution reduction for bacteria for the city of Miami and in other locations. There could be a little bit of a time lag, but there should be a fairly quick response. If this is a substantial source of the bacteria, then getting rid of that source for a month should be a detectable response.
Dave, can you go back to the first about the numbers with the blue chart and the green chart and the yellow where they all were.
Yeah.
And I'll let Ms. Barnaby, I just want that one up, yep, that there. Ms. Barnaby, go ahead.
Well, that was going to be my comment, because those of us that grew up here forever, that's, if your horse needed, specific exercise, or it was hot to cool off, and, people would take their personal horses down there all the time. And again, back before we had all this wonderful stuff where you can give your dog a pill once a month and not have fleas and everything, people would take their dogs to the causeway to swim in the salt water because it can kill fleas. So again, historically, people have had animals out there I got here in 57, so as long as I can remember, I've seen people's individual horses out there. And like we have said, if the horse companies are going to keep their horses away, that's one thing, but are we going to have staff out there telling people if they show up with their own personal horse and their own personal trailer because their vet said go exercise in the water, do we turn them, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's any way we can 100% say that for the entire time there won't be a horse out there.
All right, yeah, and that was what, again, the horse companies have been willing to police themselves. And one of the things I did ask, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, maybe I'm a little bit off on it, but when they talked about they were not allowed to go at the causeway in Pinellas County or whatever, it had nothing to do with the bacteria levels. It had more to do with, it was in some sort of estuary or something that.
My understanding
Right.
is that one of the issues was the focus on the impacts to seagrasses.
Right.
And I'm only the director for another 6 weeks or so. But my view on that is don't confuse the trees from the forest. Okay, the reality is, yes, there's a little bit of damage from the horses going back and forth, but there's damage from boats. You want to see a place that gets damaged by physical tromping. Go to inside a Longboat Pass any weekend right around on the north side of Jewfish Key. And there used to be beautiful grass beds there, but every single person who's out there is enjoying the water, and they're the people that are paying for the big wastewater upgrades and stormwater retrofits. So yeah, physical impacts happen from people who recreate on a bay unless you're paddleboarding, and so that's just the way it is. I don't think that it is substantial enough that it has adversely impacted the health of the bay. If the bay's health was deteriorating, I think we'd be looking at what do we need to do to stop this, but the bay's health is not deteriorating. It's a localized impact.
Right, so when you look at this chart that you put up, Sarasota Bay Ecosystem Health Report Card.
Yeah.
If you were just the average person walking in and saying, hey, let me look at the report card over the last almost 20 years, would you even be concerned about Palmasola Bay?
I think the neat thing about Palmasola Bay is how did it stay so healthy for so long? And
It's still healthy.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the sort of informal stormwater treatment. You have grassy swales everywhere. Go to downtown Sarasota and it's curbs and gutters and a storm drain that shoots untreated stormwater straight out into the bay. Go and look at your system and you drive around 75th Avenue Street or whatever it is, and most of the yards have grassy swales. Your stormwater is not treated in the same manner. It is basically, you've stumbled upon low impact development techniques by not putting in storm drains.
And I think, one of the things that people really have to understand is this is a collaboration of communities. City of Bradenton may have a portion of it, but Manatee County, all the properties around it that are controlled under Manatee County, fertilizer, spraying the glass clippings from their yards, anything there, the boats, we kind of control a portion of it, if you want to say that. But from the overall health of the bay, when you look at that, and the horses weren't there, and I don't remember when they started, but since they started, it hasn't really changed that much.
Yeah, I mean, this right here, the standard for the nitrogen concentration, I didn't set it. It was set a long time ago.
Right.
The criteria that we've set is a lot lower than that, and yet we're still meeting it.
Right.
The criteria for chlorophyll is around 11.8. We proposed it should be around 7, and we're still roughly meeting that. So this bay is not falling apart, and we need to figure out how to fix it. There's a localized impact, most likely.
Right. So the other thing you brought up is about Class 3 marine
Yeah.
and swimming beaches.
Yes.
What would you consider as a Class 3 marine around the city of Bradenton that should be judged on a Class 3 marine and not a swimming beach?
It's a tricky question because who makes it a designated bathing beach? And I think what it is
You consider Manatee River a designated bathing beach?
no, I don't. But I think there are public access points. And usually, you know, the reason why you have these criteria is that they're meant to protect people. And I actually do take public health really pretty strongly, seriously. As Jane knows, and my directors know, I've been sick.
And Jane, just so everyone out in the public knows, Jane is our representative from the city of Bradenton on the Sarasota Bay estuary.
And so we do take the public health aspect correctly, but there's this thing called the Annapolis Protocol, and it means the risk to the public is a function of three things: the concentration of the indicator, the source of the indicator, and the public access. In other words, the public involvement in the water. So the bacteria levels that we have for bathing beaches are predicated upon the enterococcii being from sewage. That's very clearly spelled out in EPA. So when enterococcii come from sewage, a level of 70 doesn't keep you from ever being sick. It's basically, if you're like 75, the expectation is 13 people out of 1,000 get sick. If you're at 65, then the expectation is 12 people. It's just basic. It's not a zero. It's not a binary choice here. Like, oh, now I'm safe, now I'm not safe. It's a function of like the exposure. If your exposure to the water is wading around in knee-deep water, then it's not the same level of exposure as if you go swimming. So if you go and sample at a boat ramp, the exposure at a boat ramp is not the same as at Siesta Beach. So I go to boat ramps all the time, and I've never seen but one time people swimming at a boat ramp. So I go to Siesta Key or I go to a Coquina Key and I see people swimming. So one of them is obviously a bathing beach. Other one is a water access point.
So one of the things that I've done for many years now is there's a weekly report that comes out by waterkeepers. Long before the lawsuit against us from waterkeepers, is I've been keeping the charts that they send out. Over the years, there's been some changes. They've pulled off some areas that used to get checked, and I don't know if that's a funding issue or what, but I've noticed, and this is something that the horse companies brought up to me, where when you look over the last little bit, there's been some areas that have no horses swimming at all that have been in the 7,000, 8,000
Yeah.
points or whatever you call them for in the red, where other areas were still in the green or the yellow of the swimming beach area. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if these other areas are like the Manatee River or like Coquina Beach or Siesta Beach. So my thing is I just want the facts out there. I want to get to when you could say it's quantifiable that something has happened to change something that we can make a difference. But when you're talking about 0.5% possibly of something, that's not quantifiable.
Well, it's not, I don't think you get a response.
Right.
If you got, if the horses were 50% of the bacteria, the horses go away, you should find a response. If the horses is 0.5%, the horses go away, I'm not sure your bacteria levels change. And what you have is no more horses and the bacteria doesn't change. And you know, I don't own horses. I don't make money off of like giving them horse rides. I'm simply saying, you know, we're trying to deal with this on a lot of issues. There are very high levels of bacteria in some parts of the bay where it could be related to sewage, and there's other areas where it probably has nothing to do. I've done a study in Miami.
And you're saying the Sarasota Bay that you
Yeah,
judged?
Sarasota Bay as a whole.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, I did work for the city of Miami in the private sector, and the highest level of bacteria we had in a tributary to the Miami River, where it wasn't 5,000 or something like that, we had 5 million bacteria. 5,000 is, 5 million is something to be worried about. And we actually found that that wasn't from sewage, it wasn't from dogs, it was from decomposing vegetation from the fruit packing warehouse district in Alapata, Comstock area. So it doesn't have to be from, you know, humans or animals, and that's important because if you act upon it thinking that this is septic tanks or it's horses, and you get rid of that and the bacteria levels doesn't change, then you know, you've not changed. I don't care what you act upon. If the outcome doesn't change, then why did you do this?
One of the questions that I have, and this came up from someone else, that when you look at a weekly study of areas, and on a Tuesday, whatever the day of the week they do it, on a Tuesday, it's undetectable. The next Tuesday, it's 5,000, and then the next Tuesday it's undetectable. How would that happen?
Well, it could be the way the wind is blowing. We know the grass clippings can give you a positive test for fecal coliform. We know that decomposing seaweed can give you a positive test for E. coli. E. coli can come from decomposing seaweed. So it could be that, like, on this day the wind is coming and the blades of seagrasses are there and they're deteriorating, or it could be that a horse just pooped right there, or it could be that, like, if you go there after, like, Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, you'll see overflowing trash cans with diapers sometimes fall out onto the sand. That's the way it is.
So you could do a test in area X and go 10 feet down from area X, and it'd be totally different.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why we did 4 sites.
right.
We wanted to look at the 4 sites.
But when you go to the next time you do it, a week later, a month later, the 4 sites, there could be so many factors that it's, and you say what quantitative could be so different because of after a holiday weekend, or the grass was just blown in there, or
Yeah,
a
when-
dog just went to the bathroom, or a horse just went to the bathroom
When
there.
you look at, like, the city of Tampa's discharge in Hillsborough Bay back in the 60s and 70s, the bacteria levels were consistently higher for years. There was no time when the bacteria levels were so low that you should go swimming in Hillsborough Bay. When they upgraded the wastewater treatment plant at Howard F. Kern plant, the bacteria levels came down dramatically. That's a great example of a place where there was a management action that acted upon bacteria, and that management action resulted in the change you want to see. And also, I go back to that thing with EPA. The health criteria based upon the sort of like fact as the criteria were developed, that level of enterococci is bad if the enterococci are coming from sewage. It's not a really good idea to come into very high levels of bacteria, but if the very high levels of bacteria are from decomposing pollen and grass clippings, that's a lot less of a health risk than if they're coming from sewage. Because it's not enterococci bacteria that gets you sick for the most part. It's viruses, norovirus, and all the viruses that you can get. I got hepatitis A in China, and that was from sewage contaminated water exposures. I've never gotten anything really bad in Florida, and I spend 30 years snorkeling around and diving in most of our coastal waters.
Can you go back to the other chart before this?
Yeah, sure. You like that one?
Yeah, no, I just think that, but again, when you look at that, and this isn't a one-off year or a one-off 3 years or one-off 5 years. That's almost 20 years. And other than 2 years in 07 and 12,
Yeah.
it was still in good. It would just, every other one is excellent. So to criticize us, criticize somebody else, which again, gaslighting on Facebook is one of the biggest things people like to throw out something. You've seen it, we're dumping raw sewage in there. You've just seen it on Facebook that people say
Yeah, I
it
don't-
because
I don't
they
Facebook
they
around.
go that, and I don't do it. I read it as like a newspaper, but I don't post. I don't put anything on it. But this, and I remembered seeing this a while back, but I didn't remember as much till you brought it now. So there's just a lot of things that let's come up with the facts, which we're doing now, and then this council will have to make a decision on a lot of things, because there's a lot of issues that people in other municipalities and governments want to tell us what to do instead of work with us what to do. And that's something I'll always stand up for, the working together, finding this out, and we appreciate Sarasota Bay doing it. I've got Councilwoman Coker, and then Moore, and then I don't know if Councilwoman Barnaby.
At the end.
Okay, all right, so Councilwoman Coker.
Yeah, mine maybe. I just, I don't know that everybody realizes how amazing Dr. Tomaska has been for our whole bay. This was his second stint here. He had brought the bay levels up to where they needed to be and then left and then had to come back. And now here we are again back in the blues and greens across the bays. So you are going to be sorely missed. And I know we've got a big job ahead of us to pick your replacement. But I just can't thank you enough. You've been such a great source for me and for our council as far as just giving us the science and guiding us without telling us what to do, but giving us real facts to kind of make decisions on. So I just want to thank you for that. And the only other thing, and this is not necessarily for Dr. Tomasco, but if I'm remembering correctly, wasn't there something with that interlocal agreement that the county was going to be raking those beaches? And so maybe we need to follow up and make sure that they're doing that, because that looks like that could be a pretty major source. And that was it. But thank you.
Well, I would like to just, if I could just respond roughly on that. The raking the beach might be a pretty good idea, because this is like that picture on the right-hand side. That's what it looked like just, last week. And then the last thing, the reason why this bay got better is not because of me. It's not because of the estuary program. It's because of the local governments that have invested huge amounts of money. There's been $300 million invested. That's more than anyone in the state of Florida. That's why our bay got better, is the big investments in stormwater, wastewater upgrades, habitat restoration. I just get to document it. I didn't make it happen. I just got to document that it happened.
And can I follow up? I think it begs to be said that this estuary board has been performing and really getting great results, and I think it's in part, it's greatly due to what we've been doing and the way we've been doing it. And there is some discussion at state level to not put money towards these, and I think that it's incumbent upon us to maybe sell how successful they've been doing it, and maybe if the other estuary boards would follow the example that we've set here, it would be helpful. I don't.
Yeah, we get no money from the state of Florida at all. Haven't in 30 years.
That goes across generational party lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I think that it'd be good for them to see the success that we've had here. And I can appreciate not putting money if it's not going to be producing results, but it definitely is producing results
Yes.
in this because of different approaches, I think, is what I've understood.
Councilwoman Moore?
I would love to know more about the differences in the approaches. I don't really know what that means, honestly.
So it's
That wasn't my original question, but now that
put
we've
it
gone
kind
down
of
this
like
path.
simplistically. We've focused on what we think are the most damaging forms of the nutrient loads that come into the bay. So again, nitrogen makes the bay green, makes algae grow faster. The starving manatees in Indian River Lagoon are something we don't want to have happen. Those manatees died. There's 10,000 manatees in the state of Florida. Last time we had an estimate, last couple of years, we lost 3,000 of them. Over on the East Coast, we probably lost half our manatee population, mostly from starvation, as the seagrass meadows in the Indian River Lagoon disappeared as the water quality got worse. We don't believe that all nutrient loads are equally impactful. So the easiest way to think about it is if I have two kiddie pools with water, and one of them is, I'm gonna add a pound of nitrogen, but it's gonna be sticks and leaves and insect wings, that's stormwater runoff. The other one is gonna be liquid fertilizer. That's what wastewater is. The liquid fertilizer wastewater one is gonna be a quicker response. You're gonna grow algae quicker because they don't have to break the nitrogen down before they use it. So the state of Florida's guidance is that all nutrient loads are equally damaging, whether it's atmospheric, stormwater, wastewater, it's all the same. That's just not the case. And the big success stories that are out there, like Chesapeake Bay, much cleaner than it was 40 years ago. New York, New Jersey Harbor, cleaner water than they've had in
Boston Harbor.
Boston Harbor,
Just
yeah.
in Boston Harbor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
whatever, Charles River, but I was just
These are
on
water
that.
bodies that have been cleaner than they've been in like a century.
And they still have activity on them, duck boats and
Absolutely.
different things that they're cleaner.
Wastewater is the most important thing to get at. It's not the only thing, but it's the most important thing to get at. And that's why the struggles that you guys have had, we've been helping you write letters to get grant support, because it's the aging infrastructure, infiltration and inflow. If you don't get your wastewater under control, it doesn't matter what you do with stormwater.
Thank you.
Miss, you got
Oh,
something?
well, the original question was.
I didn't know what I answered.
It wasn't really.
Sorry.
I mean,
I answered my own question.
I serve on similar councils, and so I was just wondering if there was some kind of difference in pattern of work. That those other councils also are really more, they do work for the state versus receiving a lot of funds from them. It's usually more of like we're doing this, we're studying something, and we're just giving you the information, do with it what you will.
Yeah, we call it like a bias towards the action approach, which is if you're not quite sure, just do it, because that's the only way we've been successful. And there are a lot of success stories across the country, like you said, Boston Harbor, New York, New Jersey Harbor. There's a picture of a whale, a humpback whale breaching underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. That's how much cleaner that water is now. And the reality is, it wasn't because we had perfect knowledge. We had enough information to move forward. And that's why this is kind of an example of it. Do we have enough information to suggest the horses are as big enough of a problem that it's going to solve your bacteria problem by getting rid of them?
And that was my original, that, it wasn't going to be less of a question but more of a comment for us, which is, I think it's reasonable given the, not only the cost of the studies, but also the fact that the horse companies have voluntarily agreed to, that's why I was actually asking about timing, because I was thinking, my interior thought was, it's fair to give them some warning for the loss of revenue. If we were going to do that, I was going to make a suggestion that we let them plan accordingly, but it sounds like that is not a consideration that I have
This
to worry
isn't my
about.
first rodeo, Ms.
Yes,
Moore.
so-
We've
so that's
been
great.
working this for a while with the horse companies, and they've been very, very accommodating, because they feel that if the evidence is out there and it's totally 100% the horses, they don't want to harm our, environment. I mean, my family, the first 3 generations were Cortez fishermen. So people always say, I don't care about the water. I care about the water, even though I'm not a fisherman, but the family was, and the history of what it is. But I want to go back to that blue chart again, the chart where we're all blue. So, and you and I have talked, Dave, sometimes on Saturday mornings for an hour or 2 hours about things happening and what we're doing.
Yeah.
And when you look at the yellow in those 3 bays let me put my glasses on, that were from 2013 to 2018-19 in there, what was the biggest factor in that to be yellow and
In
red?
that part of the bay, the biggest problem we had down there was overflows from Bee Ridge. Bee Ridge wastewater treatment plant had the epicenter of 1 billion gallons of wastewater that came into the bay.
Of raw sewage.
Not just raw. It was raw. Some of it was raw. Most of it was treated, but it had a very high nutrient content. By law, it was not allowed to be discharged into the bay or the tributaries. It had happened anyway. That's really a function of a lot of things happened. They took Sarasota County took Siesta Key Utilities offline, brought that effluent to their location. It rained a lot in 2017, for example, with Irma. Irma. And so we had these big discharges of wastewater. That was the worst year we've had for red tide. And again, we don't cause red tide, we can make red tide worse. And so basically that was a wastewater issue. So 1 billion gallons is a huge volume of wastewater, but it's a small percentage because that wastewater treatment plant operates about 18 million gallons a day. So 1 billion gallons is like less than 5% of the volume they treated over that 7-year period. So they did a great job with 95% of their wastewater, but that remaining 5% that they didn't do a great job with was enough to damage that bay for years. That's how important wastewater is.
And some of that was being discharged where nobody knew about it at one point. I remember reading about it and watching it and seeing it, and never knowing 10 years later I'd be in this position to have to deal with some of it. The one question I have, Ms. Barnaby, if it's all right, or Ms. Moore, were you done?
Well, I was just gonna, my ultimate suggestion was going to be that we somehow post and alert people that we're doing the study so that we don't have the personal horses. I would like to keep this as pure as possible.
So
that was gonna be,
I did think of that, and I wanted to look at that, and I wanted to talk about it here. We have had the personal horses for 100 years, probably more than it was in the past. So I don't see a lot of personal horses, but would that not be, if we could go ahead and say we're going to stop it, how are we going to stop if somebody goes out there on a Saturday morning
Right.
and goes out, and even in the future, if we say no horses ever, people are still going to do it. So I don't know. I mean, we can try that, and I thought about that, but I also thought about maybe it's the natural flow of things, since the influx of the companies have only been there the last couple of years. The others have been there forever. So maybe there's a way to say, let the natural flow go. And that wasn't a pun on the natural flow of wastewater, but maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's a good thought, but it's already happening now. So they're off the beach till October 6th with the companies. So we can do that. So I don't know, I've thought about that quite a bit. But one of the things that, I don't know who brought up the question, but why would it be different when you talk about the Class 3 Marine, swimming beach and all that? And obviously, other people would think that, well, that Dave Tomasco is crazy because he's trying to get true facts and quantitative information out there, which wouldn't meet a narrative of another group. And when you talk about different groups, is your Sarasota Bay Estuary a money for profit group that gets money when you make up these, results, when you find these results?
Our funding comes from, about 70% comes from the federal government. The remaining 30% comes from local governments. And we do get contributions. We've gotten $50,000 worth of contributions from the Sarasota Sportsmen's. We've gotten contributions from other folks. And we've actually also gotten contributions that have come from stipulated fees. So for example, every time Sarasota County has an overflow, we get money, but that goes into a separate account. Doesn't pay for our salaries or our furniture or anything like that. It goes 100% towards restoration, where we don't benefit from that at all. And it's not fungible either. So in other words, it's not like we don't have to spend money on salary because we have this other source. It's a completely separate held account. So we don't benefit from stipulated fees. We don't benefit from donations. But I would say, because I know that there's a little bit of an inherent tension about Suncoast Waterkeepers, and I get that. But at the same time, they're one of the reasons why the overflows in the southern part of the bay got controlled, because DEP wasn't, they were asleep at the switch for years. And Suncoast Waterkeepers did a great job of identifying, hey, you're not allowed to do this. And then DEP kind of came into a consent decree on them. And their numbers are correct. I disagree on whether or not you should use bathing beach criteria, but the numbers are correct, and there is elevated bacteria on that site. So if we didn't have their data, we wouldn't even know that there was a potential issue.
Do you get paid more or less if the results are good or bad?
I it makes no difference. I'm more popular when things are bad because when things are good, my popularity just sinks because people think I'm exaggerating how good it is.
And that's my point. I want to get to the point where this city is doing the right things, and we did not release, and this is more public information, we did not release billions of gallons in any raw sewage. It was partially treated, wasn't treated to the nutrient level that we wanted to, but when you have a storm season we had last year, it overwhelmed the system. And sitting in the audience today is we're going to get to meet some people that we've already hired to manage our wastewater system with the company. We've gone out there. We are facing and fixing it. And for the people out there that keep gaslighting what happens, we found a situation on Monday, and yes, we lined the streets with all the gas lines and all that to fix the situation of a pipe that had some issues in our wastewater system. But we found it and fixed it before it actually got to where it was spilling. So those things are happening. And the reason I'm saying, because, again, Facebook is great to say, hey, happy birthday, Dave. It's an anniversary. It's this or that. But Facebook with the gaslighters is continuing to happen because they do not want to have a solution. All they want to do is cause a problem. And I can go on forever, but this is why we are going to be solution-based here. And whatever comes up, we don't know what the next month's going to hold. The horse companies don't know what it's going to hold. It could be bad. It could be good. But we're going to do what the evidence leads us to, and then the council will have to make a decision. Ms. Barnaby?
I just wanted to say, because I know this is your last time in front of us,
Maybe.
maybe? Oh,
Before
okay.
November, we may bring him
I'm not
back.
retired, I'm going to the private sector.
But before November, we'll
It's
bring him
gonna
back.
cost us a lot more.
A lot more.
Commissioner Pat Glass got the city of Bradenton involved, and it was my honor and privilege to be the first representative at the estuary program from the city of Bradenton. And that was in the early 2000s. And then I stepped away for a while and then came back. And I remember, because it was during COVID, we did Zoom interviews to select a new executive director for the program. And I think if you remember correctly, my cat really liked you. Because she heard you talking and she came running over and she tried to get on my little laptop computer, and it was great fun. However, I wanted to say how much I have enjoyed having you serving all of our communities the way that you've chosen to do it, with honor, with integrity, with science, telling us what we can, and here's his gift. He can explain things so that people who were not biology majors can understand. And that is an awesome gift to have, because sometimes we will have people in front of us and it's, I mean, seriously. They go off into these scientific formulas and things. And I'm sorry, when you have letters and numbers together, that's the devil. That is the devil. I like to have my numbers, and I like to have my letters. But you've done a wonderful job for us, and I understand that the mayor did give you a T-shirt.
Yeah, he did.
And you want to know where that came from?
You?
Well, no, it comes from the city, but I filled in for Miss Coker at a meeting where she was unable to attend. And we watched a video, and I think it was where you all had gone out, and I don't know if you were helping with seagrass planting. I don't know what you were, I can't remember what it was. And, you know, you were out on the weekend, and you had, I'm sorry, I can't remember what the T-shirt
It's the
was.
one with the bears.
Yes. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I got it in Arizona, and it's a bear that's pointing to like a car with like stick figures, and it says, "Ooh, look, a menu." So I thought that was great. So
Yeah,
I drive
it's a
Megan
very-
crazy
it's
by
a-
wearing it every time I'm going to be on TV.
It's a very funny shirt, but I thought, well, the next time you're doing a video on wear our shirt,
Okay.
please. So, but just again, thank you for the gift of your knowledge, and thank you for the gift of your time.
I appreciate it, and like I'll turn it back. The staff is fantastic, and the reason why we're a success story is because the local government's not us. EPA's not making them. EPA's not spending hardly any of the money for fixing the bay. It's local government. So local governments are the key to making this bay better, just like they are everywhere. And if you guys weren't willing to pony up for fixing your problems, as well as the city of Sarasota, Longboat Key, Manatee County, Sarasota County, $300 million investment. That's why this bay is cleaner.
So to close it out, I thought this was worth the time and the effort, because we probably will try to have you back before you're gone from the Sarasota Bay.
Yeah, if we get our results back, we'll come back and.
In 2013, when Ms. Barnaby took her, whatever you want to call it at the time, I got on the board or got on the council and was put on to the Sarasota Bay Estuary. So basically served on it the majority of the time until I became mayor.
That's when it got worse, dude.
Yeah, and so that's when it all started. So I sat through a lot of that and was proud to sit through those meetings as a Bradenton person, Manatee County person, as a representative from the city of Bradenton, because you look at the chart. That's why I want to articulate on the chart. We can always do better.
Yeah.
But how do you quantify it is going to be the most important thing. And so far, there is no quantifiable evidence. You've said to me that it's one thing or the other, or it's this or that, or what can we do to make it better? We are always going to strive to make it better, and again, one of the things that I agree with Ms. Moore, but if you change too much, then you might not get the exact result you want, saying it's right or wrong, because we are not going to be able to rake the beach. We are not going to be able to regulate private horses if somebody drops out on a Saturday morning, goes out and is not cleaning it up, where the horse companies, and I think they're 95% cleaning it up. They were willing to come up with ways to get this little boat, scooter boat, all of them working together. But you have to have all of the companies doing that. And I think there's one company that is not doing it to the way they should, so that could be hurting. So we're going to watch that and really try to quantify the truth, and really then try to get it out there, because as the senator said to me not too long ago, sometimes your people are going to keep doing the gaslighting just because you're never going to change their mind, because they don't want to change their mind, or they don't have a message, or they don't have a business or a company. So we want to change it. And what's happening is, one other question, are all of your records public record? If anybody wants anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So, all right. So, and all of our records are public record. I'm going to be asking for some other public records on some companies soon, to make sure that everybody is working in the same direction, rowing in the same direction. So thank you, and we'll be moving on.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mayor.
So to follow up on our recent visit from Dr. Tomasco for Environmental Science Week, we have Woodard and Curran. Yeah. And if you could I'll come on up. Yep.
And this is who I was talking about in the audience, that
Indeed.
we are working hard to adjust and change the past of making our city better.
Right, for sure. And, these folks basically have partnered with us to outsource our wastewater treatment program at the wastewater reclamation facility itself. And they're intricately involved in the Face It to Fix It campaign. It's kind of appropriate that they're here today on the heels of Dr. Tomasco's discussion during hurricane season itself, during wet weather season, where we've seen excessive flows, we're having challenges to the plant and the like. So Allison Watson, you may remember, was here when we initially did the presentation for adoption of our contractual arrangements with Woodard and Curran. She's the Chief Executive Officer. With her is Charlie Moyen, the Chief Strategy Officer from Woodard and Curran, and Brian Bezdonka, who is President of Operations. Brian also has a house out in Anna Maria Island. He's a local guy that kind of spends a lot of time here. And Ryan Watson actually lives in Jacksonville, but I think he spends more time here than he does actually in Jacksonville. So with that, I just want to quickly say, because we are pressed for time and these folks need to get to the plant and do some of their stuff, that they've done a really remarkable job since May when they were hired. So we're talking the better part of about 6 months, but they've jumped in with both feet. And we all know we've had very significant challenges at the plant itself, at some issues that we do have to face and fix as it relates to the processes, the engineering, the hydraulics, the mechanical maintenance and operation at the plant. And Woodard and Curran has done that. They've also really skilled up their staff over there with bringing in higher qualified operators, training programs, and things like that. So I can clearly say that I think Mr. Williams and I and Irv and Kim and the whole technical team and administrative team feel that they have stepped up, and it's a very much a relationship-based approach that we're taking to it, and we have success. Their fiscal solutions team has also been very beneficial to us in attempting to access funds. So with that, I would give you Ms. Watson, the Chief Executive Officer of Woodard and Curran.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm pleased to be here this morning. As you heard, we've been operating the treatment facility for about 6 months, and we're really pleased with the partnership that we've been able to establish during that time. I'm here to reiterate and emphasize our commitment to the city. The city is very important to us. The city's success, we believe, is shared success. We really do appreciate the partnership, and we bring all of our resources to bear. So from our engineering team to our fiscal solutions to our operations team, we're here to support you and to help you to achieve your objectives. If you go to the plant, you'll see that partnership. We actually wear 2 patches. Our employees wear a Bradenton patch and a Woodard and Curran patch as really a symbol of that partnership. And then finally, having been here for a little bit, we've now seen firsthand the wet weather challenges that you face. And we actually do believe and appreciate the commitment that you have to your Face It and Fix It campaign. We think that that is the pathway to a permanent solution. And we're here to stand side by side with you and provide all the support that we can as partners as you move towards a long-term permanent solution to the challenges you faced. So thank you for the partnership, and we look forward to supporting you in every way that we can.
All right, any questions? All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Mr. Perry, can you come back up? I got a couple questions that I think relates to this since we're having
Watson, your team, appreciate you all. Sir.
Water Quality 101 Day and going through it. And it's that important, in my opinion, that we keep continuing down this path. We have some other issues in our water quality while we're talking about it, and lift stations and different things that are going on in timing. And I think it's important that you give us a 2-second update on how long things take and why they're taking longer than we want as we work towards neighborhood fixes.
Sure.
And why that it can't be fixed yesterday and it's going to take some months to do things.
Yeah, I mean that's a long version question, but at the same time, I think I can be rather succinct and more cogent. Our plant, unlike the Bee Ridge plant, that was 18 million gallons per day, is about 9 million gallons per day. Bradenton's a lot smaller than the service area of that plant. when we have wet weather season, particularly currently, we're experiencing flow peaks of up to 14 and 15 million gallons per day, so you're way over capacity. It fouls the plant, some of the technical aspects of the plant, so we need these guys to work with us to fix that. But outside the plant is where we collect things. And so really when it goes from the drain and the lateral from a home, a commercial use or whatever, it goes into our conveyance that's transmitted either through gravity or force mains with lift stations, pressurized lines, to move it to master lift stations and ultimately bring it to the plant for treatment. When we saw that pipe break right out on 10th Avenue the other day, we looked down at a clay pipe that was a sewer pipe, a 6-inch pipe basically, and you look down there and you think you'd see dirty water. It really wasn't dirty water, it was pretty clear water, and the reason why is because inflow and infiltration. When we had wet weather seasons or we have high hurricane seasons that bring storm surge, many of our lift stations, as such as Lift Station 13, Lift Station 8 over here at Barcarata, and others are on the river. They're actually underwater when we have storm surge or high rains, flooding and the like, and so our plant becomes overcapacitated. The fixes to that are incredibly complex because you have to deal with them from the perspective of the collection system itself, maybe even the laterals, because a lot of our older homes, we're an older city here in Bradenton, have defective laterals. They've been covered up by patios, they're defective corrosive pipes and the like. And so you have to deal with it from the collection side, the transfer side being lift stations and gravity systems, and then master lift stations. In order to do that, you need some very technical, qualified people. When I say technical people, I am talking about engineers that can engineer the systems that are out there, civil engineers, surveyors, because when you go out onto 10th Street or 12th Street and you just walk down the street, you don't think about what's on the ground. We've got 8-inch lines, we've got 16-inch lines, we've got storm drains, and all of that stuff, whether it's gravity or it's force main, has to be sloped and configured. So we met with our engineers yesterday on a project we're doing, and the design itself, just for PDE, preliminary design and engineering, to come up with a 30% plan is about a 6-month process in that case. After that, we have to basically move towards final construction, bid the projects, get contractors, obtain supplies, and ultimately construct the projects. They have to obviously be permitted with DEP or other types of regulations. You're talking about 2-3 years. And so that's a very complex, critical path of project management. And we are facing it and fixing it, and you know better than anybody because you're in my office and pushing me, as you should be, to try to get the right people. Some of it's people, some of it's other consulting assistants, some of it's project management. We're bringing on the individual that's number 3 at utilities starting Monday, who is probably one of the highest regarded collection systems individuals in the county. He's worked in Manatee County designing, constructing, and operating their major collections upgrades. And that's what we have to do here. And quite frankly, that initiative will probably be continuing while we're all gone. I mean, if you look at the longer term play, it's probably a 10, 12-year play. We can make significant improvements in what we're doing right now to develop those critical paths and then basically fund, and that's obviously a challenge that we're hitting from a lot of different fronts, but we have to fund, and then we have to basically plan a whole critical path of collections, which involve lift stations, piping, all kinds of other things, and then treatment at the plant as well. And ultimately, we have to be out of the river. The good news on that is we have our well that's hit critical depth, and we're a little bit ahead on that, and we'll basically be able to recharge on that. So it's quite an undertaking, and most people that get on Facebook have no idea about the complexity, the cost, and the difficulty of that undertaking.
And the reason I brought that up, because there's some principals in the room here that we have working for us that are really pushing that envelope to funding with us. It's just not they're coming in and operating some buttons on a plant. They're not only, we're meeting them in Tallahassee doing things, we're meeting them everywhere. We're meeting with the Secretary of DEP, you and I, trying to secure funding for it. One of the things that I would like everyone to hear today in this room, whether you're working with us, for us, or against us, that anything you can do with speeding up permits would be much appreciated. We have a clarifier that took us, what I understand, almost 2 years to get a permit. If that would have only taken 6 months, maybe we could have started a year and a half earlier and it would be opening sooner. Would that have solved our problems last year? No. Would it have helped us? Possibly, because when you've got, sick plants because of overflow and all of that. So that's my main point in that. And I know there was an article in Monday's Bradenton Herald about some neighbors, and it's important to them. It's important to us. And like you said, I don't think that a day goes by, or a weekend goes by where you and I don't talk about wastewater, or Mr. Williams is not as involved in that. Mr. Rudicel's involved in that at times when we're looking at the legal stuff of how to do things and do them quicker. So it is important to us. And unfortunately, it's not a tire bald and you can fix it today. It's got all of that. So I think we probably are ready to do another update on Lift Station 13 publicly, and maybe another community meeting would help, because 3 to 6 months in the government world is not a long time, and nothing is not being done. There's something being done. It's just, they don't see it, and we got to let them see it. Ms. Moore and then Ms. Coker.
I think another community meeting would be a really good idea. I also think it would be a good idea to have that list of projects that we have been kind of talking about so that we can know where we're at. And I know that it's frustrating for everyone up here to hear criticism and hear people complain. But specifically, let me just let you all know that there has been something that people have seen near Lift Station 13. And it is that now there's a pump at Lift Station 3. And there's also a inch-thick layer of what probably Dr. Tomasco was talking about, sludge from the water gathering in the street and then leaving what is probably decaying and going into the river and maybe not being fantastic. So it doesn't look great. And I think that I'm not saying that we're not doing things. That's not what I don't think anyone is saying. I think everyone is saying that things are happening, but I also think that, part of our role is to listen and actively listen and try to alleviate concerns. The fact that there's another pump at 3 doesn't really help people feel confident about what is going on. And it's not because I'm, telling them that something bad is happening. I hear a complaint. I ask Lance, Mr. Williams, excuse me. I ask Mr. Williams, what's going on? He tells me. I relay that back. And that's the procedure. But I can't make people not be concerned when another pump shows up to the other lift station.
It's a challenge. And I think with all due respect to you and to that area, I mean, we have to separate the wheat from the chaff, and it's been some bad chaff in there over time historically, having the old bypass system there. I get what you're saying, but I mean, I can't imagine how many times I've seen equipment out there, myself, other people, right at that very lift station, right there on Riverside Drive, right out in front of that area. We're talking with the people that live down there, that are former county engineers, the lady that has 7 houses there, that lives down there and rents a lot. For them to say things like, we're not doing anything, that I think is somewhat disingenuous.
But I don't think they're saying
as it
that.
relates. And I think part of the job has to be both us and everyone working together to try to move forward, not complicate problems. It's a huge undertaking. That service area is 170 homes. And you have to get into those laterals, because everybody says, well, build lift station 3, redo it. And it's like, but I would have this thing that it's a bridge to nowhere. If I can't fix the laterals, if I can't get the collection system done through that system, we would have a lift station, but we would still have no way and a lift, to get the wastewater there. And so that's a really complicated project. It's probably the most complicated project that I've known of in the city.
I think that I agree with you. I agree with you with the level of complexity, but It's the sense of urgency, and I'm not saying that it's not happening here. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying something bad is happening, but I am saying that there's another pump now. The lift stations are not in good shape. I mean, that's just a fact. I'm not saying
How could
anything
I ever
bad
argue with
about
that?
it. Yes, this is what I'm saying.
I don't think any of us think they're in good shape.
And to the extent that we're trying to alleviate people's concerns, I'm just letting you all know that, I mean, I was distraught when I saw that 3, Mr. Williams knows that I heard it. I heard it before the pump showed up, and I asked, what is going on with 3? And he said everything is fine, and it was at that time. But then a week later, now there's a sub pump there at 3, not 13.
Yeah, but again, we have to keep it operating while the design's going on. And there may be a pump there for the rest of the time, once we have to tear that down and redo it, because there may be bigger pumps, there may be more pumps during the construction. All of that is the process that I believe we're working through as we
That
talk
lift
about
station
it.
falls into the river, which it's 4 feet away from, there'll be 20 pumps down there.
I'm
There'll be
talking about 3.
semi-trucks.
Yeah, because that's what they're gonna need for bypass.
I know, but
We
I'm
have a
talking about 3.
plan
Right.
if that falls in.
And we all know that
manage
the
the
plan is the
system.
temporary lift station.
Right.
And so I read the newspaper on Monday and, well, just fix it. Don't do the temporary. We don't trust that the temporary will really be temporary. But the fixing on it would be probably, a significantly longer time. If you want me to get that eyesore, that ugly pump that's been there for 8 years, the new pump that's been there off there now, the quickest way to do it is for everybody to get on the same page and put that temporary pack in right where we plan to do it. Now, we have a
I
legal
agree.
impediment to that we all aware
we're
of.
working through that.
And we are not in disagreement about any of that. We're not in disagreement. I agree with you with the necessity of the temporary lift station. I am totally on board with all of that. I'm trying to convey, I guess, a sense of frustration that I think is okay and valid. It doesn't deter or it's not meant as a criticism. It's actually a concern. And I think that we have to acknowledge that. I mean, I'm talking about 3. 3 is not on the river. 3 is 3 blocks off of the river. When I see that one requires a pump now, that is concerning. And I know that that we have the grant, that we're ready to put things into procurement for the design and construction of 3. But I'm just conveying to you a sense that it doesn't look, that was a tangible thing that was seen. There's a pump now at the other lift station. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to say, well, we talk a lot about, okay, shovels aren't going to be in the ground. And Mr. Williams and I have had many conversations, and you and I have also, where I say, if we had shovels in the ground, people would, and I mean with 3's expansion, not the temporary. The temporary, we all know what's happening with the temporary. We know some people don't want the temporary. You know where I stand on the temporary. I've never wavered in the necessity of the temporary. I think it is the responsible thing to do, and I tell people that. But from their point of view, what they saw, instead of a shovel in the ground, was another pump at a different lift station. And that is cause for concern. And I think our response to that should be, hey, I get it. You have another pump. That seems problematic. Let's have a community meeting and let's let them know this is where we're at. We're about to go to procurement. That's good news. Here's when you can expect a shovel in the ground. That's kind of what I'm saying. And generally speaking, I was going to mention the decaying matter in the street in my ward comments, but I'm going to say it now since it's a water quality issue. And the vendor that is mowing the grass, hasn't shown up. And I get it, again, all those things are things that are in the works, and it's not the fault of you or you or you. It is just, we need things.
You say debris in the road, is that from when the king tides come up over the seawall?
The
And then
muck
it
that
sits
develops,
under
it
the
looks
muck,
like
yeah.
gross paper. I mean, it looks like you could peel it off. And I feel like Dr. Damasco just kind of educated me a little bit about that being problematic, going into the river. But that's just my point, is I think it's okay for me to convey to you and everyone on council that people have concerns, and I think that's unreasonable.
Oh, I'm well aware that area has a lot of concerns, and I don't think we're gonna do anything to allay those concerns until the problem's fixed in its entirety. Seeing a crew out there, I mean, U.S. Water was out there doing bores, I think on Monday. Yesterday, yeah. And so that we can do the temporary pack and stuff. I mean, I don't, it's a historical problem. That's a serious problem. It's part of a tidal flood problem. I mean, let's face it, that when those king tides come in and run up all that muck that gets on the road, it's a problem. They built these roads really at a different time, a different way, and they're probably too low in a
100
way.
plus years ago,
Yeah.
that was the river.
Yeah.
We, as a community, filled that river, and now some of the river's trying to take it back.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, I do have a question for you, and you haven't given me the answer yet, but I asked you about purchasing a temporary lift station, and you were gonna find out, because the concern of a temporary lift station can be permanent. I don't believe that, from what I've read and saw, that temporary lift station is a permanent structure that will last forever. It's temporary.
Correct. Yeah, the materials that we're using are not material we would necessarily use for a long-term sustainable lift station. They're specifically made as kind of a temporary.
Quick temporary
Quick temporary
fix.
lift station. We can do a quick install to relieve the concerns that we have for the lift station 13.
The wet wells are all poly.
Right. And the other question I asked you was, being the frugal money person that I am, if we need to do that somewhere else, can we pick that lift station up when we're done with it and use it somewhere else?
That's probably more of a technical question for Don DeMooney or Kim, but I would probably say yes. There are a lot of the majority of that lift station could be used at other facilities or other areas. Yeah.
Oh, I know. The reason I'm asking that is because this isn't a one-off problem. It's a
Right.
problem that we're going
Right.
to keep working and trying to face and fix.
Right.
And none of us would be doing this job if we didn't accept criticism. Because, and I've said this many times, I don't need this job. I do it because I want to make a generational change, not only in the wastewater, stormwater, but also our CDBG grant area neighborhoods that can change generationally children's lives and the community's lives. And I will fight for that, because there's a lot of things that we get every day that we don't want to get into, but we have to. And we're going to keep doing that, and we're going to keep pushing the envelope. And, people don't realize, you said it, started out, Mr. Perry, when I walk around that door in the mornings and I got that smile on my face, oh crap, what's coming? It's almost when I get the phone call from the chief
Right.
later in the time of things. So, it's
You
like,
get that
okay,
too?
what's going?
Get
So,
ready.
But anyway, I think that's it. I got Ms. Coker and then Ms. Barnaby.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you. This is very timely for this update. I think we needed to hear it. There's a lot of noise out there right now, and it makes it really tough for us as leaders to be able to, work with the public like we're supposed to. But I also feel like as leaders, we need to be able to instill confidence that we are working on it, because we are here. I see how much time and effort and commitment is being made to this, and I would not want to question that commitment publicly, even if I had that. But I know, because I see it on a day-to-day basis with you guys. So I think yes, I feel like some of the social media is really counterproductive, and I think it's incumbent upon us to get this update and be able to calm some of that hysteria that's being whipped up. So I thank you for doing this, because I've been feeling the pressure too, and I'm not in the middle of what they are over in their ward. And remind everybody that it's, there are 5 wards. We all have our issues, but we're all committed to, I do see that Ward 4 has got something that's got to take precedence over maybe something that I also want addressed. So, but I don't see any lack of commitment to getting that fixed.
Well, we appreciate your support. I mean, the administration puts forth these things, and they're costly undertakings that have major fiscal impacts on the long-term solvency and viability of the fiscal program of the city. There's a reason why the waterworks is on the monopoly board, because it's a major part of the city, the utility program. It's a huge major part of the city. But we have leadership now that is addressing it with the face it and fix it. You can't just hide your head in the sand. I think that probably for a while with utilities, not just in the city of Bradenton, but across the board, Out of sight, out of mind, it's underground. Oh, it only happens now and then, that type of thing. But this is a very responsive and attentive board, not just on this, but you have Tomasco in talking about the environmental conditions and health of our waterways and bays. So, thanks for doing that. And we admire you for doing it, frankly.
Ms. Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Coker, thank you for putting it far better than I think I could have done it, because I wrote down 2 words here. There seems to be a reoccurring theme. Anything that the city tries to do, if people don't understand or they don't like it, and please understand, I expect criticism. I mean, as an American, I believe everybody has the right to express their opinion about how their government is serving them. And I expect that. What I don't expect is every single issue that comes up being told that the city doesn't care, the elected officials don't care, the staff don't care, that we're all apathetic. I mean, everything, that's a reoccurring theme, and I don't understand that. I mean, and then the other reoccurring theme is, well, maybe we should give them bags of money like the developers do. I've never been given a bag of money in my life. Do you think I would be sitting here if I had that opportunity? Probably not. Well, it just, when you care, and when it's your hometown, and it's people that helped raise you, and you have people that may not have gotten here until the last 24 months or 36 months or 5 years, and they make comments like that, it does get under your skin. I have never even been offered a bribe in my entire time up here. But I think if you walk down the street, you ask 5 people, oh yeah, the elected officials here on the take. Never seen it. Sure, it happens someplace else. Never seen it here. So wait.
Okay.
Let me just get off of that for a minute, put that soapbox aside, and I apologize for getting emotional about it. But again, when it's a community that has helped raise you, and they should understand what the standards, I mean, if they've changed, okay. But the standards that I was raised under was to have honesty, to have integrity, to treat your fellow man the way you wanted to be treated. And I think we need to get back to that. Getting on to something else. Mr. Perry, you were talking about, you found clay pipes. Have you ever heard of Orangeburg pipe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My house was built in 1948, I think. And in the early 2000s, we had to replace our sewer line. And the gentleman, and because of the landscaping and stuff, it had to be hand dug. But this very fine gentleman was out there, and he came up and goes, yeah, man, you've got Orangeburg pipe. You know what that is? No, I have no idea. Orangeburg pipe is a lightweight, brittle, paper-made pipe made from compressed wood pulp layers sealed with pitch. And it was an affordable alternative in 1945 to 1972. And when we start doing stuff over in Ward 4, you're going to find a lot of that Orangeburg pipe. And that can be contributing to some of our water problems that we're having. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Not everybody has cast iron and not everybody has PVC. You're probably going to find Orangeburg pipe over there. I also, while I have you here, wanted to ask you, we have a consent item that is going to come in front of us dealing with the grant agreement for the water reclamation facility. It's item number letter 0. We talked about that. Can you just, I think it's important for the community to know that we are continuing to face it and fix it and work on this problem. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability as long as I have breath and God wants me here, so.
So just to follow up a little bit with that about people thinking that we get money from this and we do that, this job has cost me over $1 million at my private business because I've had to hire staff that I wouldn't have to have there, even with family. And it's been 5 years now, so you can do the math, that it's costing me $1 million to be in this job. So anybody to say that I'm not bought in, I'm willing to do that, not only for the citizens and the community and the grandchildren of this community. It's money well spent, and I will not apologize for getting emotional on things or getting fired up when we get beat up over and over again about stuff that we're doing. We put out in our police department a traffic area that we needed to handle on Monday, and look at the comments and, about, oh, they marked it already. Well, that's a person that doesn't know anything about it. We found the problem, we marked it so we could dig it and get it taken care of before there was a bigger issue. You look at other cities around this state, which I've done a lot of research on and talking to them. We may have 10 or 15 issues a month. Other cities that are as old or older than us and bigger have hundreds of those same situations a month. Everybody, I believe, in the state is facing and fixing it. And we're doing, thanks to all the council, previous council a little bit, this council, we are putting our money where our mouth is and getting the grants and the monies. And we hired the people at Woodard and Curran. But you know what? I will never apologize for being up here and standing up for us. And when I say us, the whole community, the people that want to blast us, bring it on, we'll take it. And I do read it. People say don't read it. Some things I don't read, but we're reading it and we're knowing it because I think that can make us better too. Sometimes say, well, maybe there is a way to fix it that way or do something or get it. But when you keep getting blasted over and over again for the same thing, it does get a little bit stressful and tiring. And like I said, I didn't expect this to take this long, but it's worth the conversation for the public. So I think we do have one other thing that you want to bring up before we get
Sir.
into citizen comment.
Briefly, if Mr. Keys could join me up here.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows Craig Keys and knows the value of the service that Craig has provided to the city for the last, I've heard 17, 18, and 19 years, but I'll let him put some more precision to that. But Craig is heading to separate from the city and take a break and move towards retirement and that type of thing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say that he's done a great job. Personally thank him. I know that many of you have worked personally with him basically on the operations side of Public Works and a lot of public-facing projects that he works on. So with that, I just wanted to put Craig up here and express my personal thanks and thanks on behalf of my team who's worked with him.
So Craig, tell us your first day and what you did on that first day and when it was.
I started with the city back in 2007. It was on the 18th day of January. I don't know what I did the first day, but I would tell you during these years of working with the city, it has been quite the roller coaster ride. There's good, a whole lot of good, bad, ups and downs throughout this whole thing. It has taught me a lot of things. During these 19 years, it's been, I want to appreciate and give you guys the credit for allowing me to do a job that I was tasked with that was quite the task of dealing with people. You also become part of HR, right? Because you're dealing with a lot of people. And that was the biggest challenge to the whole job of dealing with a lot of people. So I appreciate you guys trusting in me to do that job that I was tasked with. And at this time, I just feel like it's time for me to take on new ventures. But I want to truly thank everybody up here for my time at the city. You truly gave me thoughts in my mind of where things could go. Listening to you all over the years, it's been quite the conversations of how we get from point A to point B. and the journey that it takes to get there. And that's kind of been my life. It's been a journey to get where I am today. And I'm looking to turn the page and see what the next chapter holds.
All right, well, thank you. What I want to kind of remember back on is on some sites when we had hurricanes and you jumping in that front end loader and picking up and doing things. And then also last year at, I don't know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, saying we got to secure this plant. And all of a sudden here comes Craig in that front end loader with buckets full of dirt and making them a moat for us basically to help protect at that moment all night long. So thank you for all of those with a lot of other things through especially last storm season. So thank you for that, and we appreciate your time, and now enjoy.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you. We'll move on to citizen comment. I want to, after citizen comment, we'll take a brief recess, but I want to give opportunity, and I know Dr. Tomasco and his team is still here because there may be some people that want to talk that are from the horse companies. But at this time, we'll have citizen comment will be accepted during the citizen comment portion of the meeting on any non-agenda item, agenda item, future agenda items, or topic of relevance to the city. Comments will be accepted on the public hearings at the appropriate time. We do have a 3-minute, and you can't gift your time over to anybody. You only have 3 minutes. And when you come up, please state your name, your city of residence, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. The first we have is Preston Whaley. Okay. Next we have Carmen Hansen.
Good morning. Carmen Hansen. I live in Mayaca City. Good morning, Your Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, and colleagues. I represent Sea Ponies, which operates guided horseback tours at Palmasola Bay. A bacteria study from the Suncoast Water Seekers. This study emphasizes that these indicators are not specific. They don't pinpoint whether the contaminations are from humans, animals, or environmental sources, but they still keep publicly, through the press, their Facebook page, and Instagram, blame the horses without any factual evidence. This is becoming harassment and slander to us and our companies. Other beaches regularly test worse than Palmasola Bay, and they are not linked to any horses even near the area. Here are a few recent samples. September 2nd, Turtle Beach, no swim, 3,968 bacteria count. Blackburn Point, no swim, 3,130. Longboat Key Boat Ramp, 7,212. Palmasola Bay North, 333. August 26th, Herb Dolan Park, no swim, over 5,000. New College Cables Bayfront, no swim, over 6,000. Siesta Key Beach, no swim, 1,100. Palmasola Bay, 323. August 19, Blackburn Point, no swim, 578. Palmasola Bay, no swim, 246. August 12th, Blackburn Point, no swim, 3,255. Palmasola Bay, under caution, with 41 horses were there. August 5th, all of Sarasota beaches had no swim advisories with levels up to 10,000. New College, no swim, 262. Palmasola Bay, 246. July 8th, all of Sarasota under a no swim advisory, all of their beaches with counts over 12,000 bacteria levels. Herb Dolan Point, 368. Palmasola Bay, under caution, 52. As you can see, Palmasola Bay is definitely not in or near last place when it comes to bacteria levels. This is very exciting because Palmasola Bay has less water to flush out their systems compared to most of our pristine beaches. This is why every year the Suncoast Seekers are constantly blaming the horses. It's becoming a witch hunt. If you want to find,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, I have Mark Hisser, but like I said, we cannot transfer minutes over, so, all right, thank you. And then, Michael, is it Coppola? Okay, please come forward. You have 3 minutes. State your name and city of residence.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor Brown, congratulations on your USF football team.
That's his over there, so.
I was wondering where the
Chief.
Seminole one was.
I want to start off, I was here July the 23rd, and I talked about an issue that we have in the Village of the Arts with vagrant people inhabiting buildings that are condemned or abandoned. And I want to thank Chief Kramer because he put resources in place. He took a personal call from me. We're still dealing with it on the police end. There's some real problems there. Up to the point that the last time that I involved the police, one of the vagrants literally came to my home and threatened me in my front yard. Okay, so that's an ongoing thing, and I just spoke to the lieutenant that I understand is new on duty there, and that he's going to step up things there. What we've asked him to do is to make some random checks on the property. It doesn't require a random check. Any day of the week that I go there, they're there. But one of the reasons I came today, I brought pictures that I thought you folks might want to see, and I'll leave them with you. You can get a clearer understanding of the problem. First and foremost, we moved in on April the 1st of 2024. And the day we moved in, we walked around the neighborhood and we noticed this building. There's a sticker on there from the city of Bradenton which says that this building is not inhabitable. To be in it is under penalty of law, and that it needs to be demolished and the owner needs to take action. That was April the 1st, 2024. Nothing's been done. If you look at these pictures, what you'll see in them, there's literally a half of a car sitting in this yard. There are 4 properties that abut this property, mine and 3 others. On top of this, in the back is a structure that I assume was a barn or a garage at some point. It had a tin roof on it. I have pictures of it. The last hurricane ripped the roof off of it. It puts my vehicles and my home in danger the next high winds. Nothing's been done about it. Yesterday I walked over there to take more pictures, and there's a vagrant living there, and you can see the picture of the person on a mattress. You can see that they have animals with him. And I did some rudimentary research, and I understand that the city has the opportunity, if a structure poses a health, safety, or welfare threat. Fire hazard exists. Pest infestation, rats, rodents, opossums are in there. Structural instability, it's all there. Code violations, that you can require that the owner either repair or destroy this property. That has not happened. If the owner fails to comply, then the city has the opportunity to destroy the property and put a lien on the property. I'm asking you to do that. I also understand that there's an opportunity to involve a special magistrate hearing. I'm asking you to do that. Now, does it benefit me? It does. But it benefits the city at whole. One of the interesting things I noticed when I walked into Chambers today is out here you've got pictures of the Village of the Arts. So somebody took pride in it, and you think that it's a draw to the city, then if we're going to do it, then let's grow it, okay? And this does not grow it. One of the interesting things, or one of the things I find interesting, is Lecom Park's spending a ton of money.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. I have the pictures.
I don't have any other, yeah, you can give them to the clerk.
Yes.
I don't have any other comments, but so we'll go to, obviously, have Mr. Coppola talk with our planning director or assistant director there. She'll talk with you and go through that, what the evidence is and where things are and what's going on. I will say that I did meet the other night with the board of directors of the Guild, and they are going to be bringing several things to the community to talk, and we're working through some of the code enforcement issues. Councilwoman Moore brought up in the last meeting about code enforcement throughout the city. Other council people have brought up. Our goal is always compliance, and we work towards that. And so that's something that this council and staff is going to be addressing through code enforcement and some compliance issues, because as we know, there's probably, Chief Kramer and Assistant Chief Thiers can do this. The first time anybody complains about speeding in a neighborhood and we put up a speed trap, usually 8 to 10 of the people that get the
We don't do
tickets.
speed traps.
Speed gauges, 7, 8 to 10 of the people
Targeted
are the
enforcement.
neighbors. So, yeah, so their code enforcement wants to go through a compliance level, and I'm not talking about this property, but just in general, to let the whole city have an opportunity to say, let's get in compliance before we have to do the others. But we're trying to do that in a positive light, because again, we don't want to be, as our code enforcement officer, head officer says, we don't want to be the Gestapo, but we got to do something. So, okay, we can't talk anymore, can't have dialogue, so, thank you. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Barnaby.
Just one other thing, just for personal knowledge, because I remember this from the past. If a piece of property has gone into the bankruptcy courts, we can't touch it. So, and I don't know that that is the case in this situation, but I do remember there were several older houses in Ward 3 and Ward 2 at one point in time where we wanted to do code enforcement on it, but because it was in the bankruptcy courts, we were not allowed to take action. I'm just sharing it for information.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and I just
Ms.
want to
Coachman.
just kind of add to that. It can be quite a long process. It was also in my ward, in fact, right down the street from me, the situation that he's describing, and it took a couple of years before we could.
All right, well, I appreciate all of the passion, and this obviously took a little longer, but it was worth conversation, and hopefully we can get more positive information out. But we are going to take a recess, 5 minutes. Thank you. Clerk.
The next item on the agenda is consent agenda, and staff is requesting approval of items A through R.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda as presented today.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I heard Ms. Coachman first. You're kind of
She finished the
closer.
word.
It's all right.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 5.
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Carries 5-0. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Item 8A is a presentation regarding SUG development.
Mayor, Representative from Fortis Development will be here to introduce this proposal.
Thank you. Good morning. Just please state your name and company.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. Joe Chambers with Fortis Development. In front of you, you've got a quick package from us on a little bit of our background and what we're trying to do with the SUG redevelopment. We were recently procured by the Housing Authority to focus on the redevelopment of SUG, which I think, as many of you know, is an aging Housing Authority property, and we're looking to bring it back into to modern times. Our background is working with primarily housing authorities, primarily in Florida. I'm working with quite a few right now. The closest one is in Sarasota, where we've got 2 groundbreakings starting next week. We've been very active down there, working down there for about 12 years. We've had off and on conversations with the Housing Authority, and this is just this is just the first step of the process. Similar to some of the earlier discussion about sewer and kind of repairing and rebuilding, you know, this is one of the aspects where we're competing for competitive funds. It's a grant writing process effectively. And one of those ways to advantage us over other cities and other counties is to have a local government contribution, and that's what you have before you. This is the first phase alone is going to be at least $20 million. This is a small percentage of that, again, with the idea being to kind of have the local government kind of have a little bit of skin in the game with prioritizing it. So really, it's questions for you, Commissioner, or council members, if you have any. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got.
So, and if everyone's looked at, you can kind of see a conceptual drawing, and obviously it's conceptual right now, but if you've been over in that area lately, and I know Councilwoman Coachman is over there at the Housing Authority meetings and some of the things going on there. This would, again, generationally change 1960s housing.
Yes.
And so for the city to have a small contribution, and, you know, 400 and some thousand dollars isn't small, but, and right now it's not out of pocket, it's just basically saying that we're in. So I think that's everything when I got the call and all the information, and obviously sitting through some of those meetings. This is something that Ellis Mitchell has been working on for a while, and unfortunately is retiring and won't get to see it, but we want to keep this going. So any other questions or concerns or comments? Motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Coachman.
move to approve. I'm trying to get to the cover page.
Next page.
Move to authorize the mayor to sign the necessary documents required by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation to reflect the support of the city of Bradenton for the redevelopment of the SUG development.
Second.
Second by Ms. Barnaby. All right. Any other discussion?
Mayor, just briefly, I have met with Fortis Development and been briefed on it. I've also met with a lot of all the counselors, I think, and answered some questions on it. One of the common questions was the CRA's involvement, and I don't know if that's because it's outside the CRA, this property, on some of the other projects that we've done under these types of grant funds. CRA has participated, but I don't know if this is, what the status is with CRA on this, and counselors did ask me about it.
It's outside of the CRA, so this will be more city funding that we'll have to start to plan for. And we know how these things go. Sometimes you get them right away, and sometimes it takes a little longer. And with the way the market is right now, and I say the construction market, it seems like things have stabilized a little bit. So hopefully this can go a little quicker than some of our other projects that we've been involved in, whether it was city money or CRA money. And you can go to Riverview 6, you can go to 920, and you can go to Astoria on 9th, that were the most recent, and then also Lincoln Village. So City of Bradenton, Addison, as I think of them, they're coming to me, but we have contributed and helped in a lot of these, especially in some times that it's the right timing. So I think this is a great project, and it'll change the neighborhood. Might as well stay on theme generationally for a long time, so. Ms. Moore, did you have anything else?
Oh, I was just gonna note that maybe it might be worth clarifying that, that this is something that has to be budgeted in the future when it actually happens, and that we make decisions about whether it's a grant or a soft pay loan at that future time.
That's correct. This is a letter of commitment. It allows Fortis to apply for these type of tax credit financing, participation agreements, and there would be a process where the proposal would has to be evaluated and obviously awarded, I believe at the state level is where that goes, and maybe Joe can talk about that. But as a practical matter, yes, ma'am, it would be down the road probably a couple of years. And
As far as, yes, as far as drawing the funds, it would be a couple of years. The one thing I would say, though, is either way, it doesn't really matter, but we do need a commitment as far as whether it be the loan or the grant. It's a different form that the city has to sign. If you'd proposed a loan form, we're fine with that.
Do we need to deal with that in our motion?
I think if we could modify the motion to include either a loan or a grant, that would be good.
It can be
And we
both,
can work out the details.
or it has to be one or the other.
If you don't mind, just pick one. I mean, again, loan's probably easier for the city, so that's fine with us.
And that's what we've done in the past, is the loan. HGI had one of these, I think, on Riverview 6, which was a 1% loan, I think, and the principal wasn't even due for a long term out. There was Allura, things like that.
Right, we would mirror that. We're not trying to recreate the wheel
Very
or
good.
anything.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coker.
Well, I was just going to say, once you've committed to one, can you not change later? I think that was my question.
As far as a loan versus a grant, you can change later.
Okay.
It's up to the city.
So we'd just be committing to the loan for right now. Okay.
And that's the motion and the seconder.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That in it? Mr. Rudisil, anything else, or that's fine? All right, hearing nothing, we'll start the vote in Ward 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
and 5.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Sorry you had to wait around to hear all about our wastewater problems, but it was worth it. All right.
Mayor, item 8B is a proposal to begin approval for the purchase of a platform Enforcer 100 tower fire truck, an aerial vehicle, and it's a fairly expensive fire truck, and they all are, but this one is pretty significant at $2.4 million, and I think Chief Gear can talk about the programmatic needs as well as the potential for when it would go into service and what it would replace and rolling stock issues over at the fire department.
Good morning, Chief Gear, Bradenton Fire Department. So as he started out, we have talk about horses today. We have a prized horse that is in need of going out to pasture in the next few years. So to relate it simply, so this is Tower 419. You've seen it in the parade. It is one of the most expensive apparatus that we run, and I'll say that because these things years ago, 17 years ago, it was around $1 million to purchase at that point. The price point now will actually shock you and somewhat scare you, but that is actually, with increases in the norm. So why do we need this? Well, ISO requires this type of apparatus for insurance ratings in the community. We want to maintain that standard. Also with accreditation coming up, we want to maintain our standard and not go backwards. We do cover 2 hospitals in our city, and also this is a heavy duty, which helps us in rescue, and we've used it numerous times at Tropicana and throughout the city with rescues through the years. So very important piece of equipment, very important tool for firefighting, and so that's why I'm here today. Now the good news, I guess you could call it the good news, is that we have a 4-year delay on manufacturing. So that's why I'm here before you today. We've been talking about this truck, planning. A member of our vehicle spec committee is here, Mike King, and they've done a lot of work on planning for the future of the city and the growth. And then we'll move to what we need next. But as far as the truck itself, it's a 2008. It's 17 years old. By the time we get it replaced, it's going to be at 21 years old. NFPA recommends that recommends that we replace all apparatus after 15 years and move them to a different status. So that's a big undertaking. I can't thank you enough to get where our fleet is currently at. We're in the best shape we've ever been. We just don't want to lose ground there. So when you look at some of the dates that I'll show you as far as our replacement schedule, it's going to go out to, this one's due now. I have it highlighted. We have one of the reserve apparatus that is around the same age, but it's also going to be, it's where it needs to be as reserve apparatus. On down the list, you can see that the fiscal years that would be impacted are it's just a guesstimate. With our fleet maintenance and the hopes there that we're gonna have a lot of wiggle room there. So you're talking, we're talking later on fiscal year 30 and beyond, that are gonna be affected with these kind of any future truck fire apparatus purchases. So this is a planned purchase, working with Mr. Williams and Mr. Perry. They'll be able to plan ahead over the next 4 years and earmark funds available for that. One thing we are hoping to get out of this truck is that we would have an additional 4 or 5 years to have it in reserve status after it is well beyond, it hits that 21-year mark. We're hoping that we can make it last a little bit longer, but regardless, it's going to hit that 25-year mark quickly, which we're already seeing the pattern of parts replacement. It's
Wheels falling off?
No wheels falling off. We don't have any more of that set up. We don't want that to happen ever again.
Facebook's great.
It's great, isn't it? So with y'all's help, we are not at that point, nor do we want to be. And so anyway, so we still hope to get a little life out of this vehicle. One of the other reasons I'm here is because it's facing another price increase from last year. We have until the end of October to basically commit to building this truck in 4 years. Otherwise, we're going to see another almost $200,000 price increase. So that's why we wanted to get ahead of it, start earmarking the funds. And now let me talk about the picture of the new truck, what it will look like before I hit you with a sticker shock. So this is an example of the new style that we would be going to. It's called a mid-mount tower. What that does is it takes the bulk of the ladder in the bucket and it puts it behind the cab. Right now you see our bucket is out in front of the cab. Right when we got that truck, we had an accident where we hit a big old oak limb on Riverview Boulevard. And you can imagine the cost of the damage and the cost, just it hurt a near brand new truck, you know, getting in an accident with a huge oak limb. This truck has a little bit lower profile, it's a little more maneuverable. You can operate off the sides of the truck, say off Main Street and all the development we have going. And it has a steer assist option for the rear tires as well that we're looking at. So you can get into tighter places, take these city streets a lot better for the turns. So operationally, this is the truck the committee recommended to me, and I agree. It's what some of the other 8 fire districts in the county are going to, just because it's maneuverability. And
You don't want to get one of those trucks like you used to see on TV where New York City, where they're driving and then the guy in the back's driving the back.
So I was just about to get there. The only other option, and I won't say it's better, is that we go to a tiller.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think we're there yet. Maybe after this, that might be at that kind of time frame. But we definitely looked at that and considered it. But to meet our needs as far as firefighting as well, you know, being able to flow 2,000 gallons a minute, and have operators in the bucket, this is what we think we need to pursue. And, you know, once again, the cost similarities are so close that you might as well pick what you need. And so that's why the committee recommended this one, and I agree totally. We were up at the factory, and it's very well modern and well-featured ride. So now we'll move on to the basic, we call this the basic page. The good news is there's no money down up front. The sticker shock is that it's sitting at $2.4 million. Call it 2.5 at the end of the day, I would guess, but definitely 2.4 and change, and that's with a little bit of loose equipment that's required to be on the truck. So that over the 4-year period, you're looking at around $625,000 a year that Mr. Williams will have to account for and set aside. So it's a big ask, y'all. What does that mean? This is probably a 20-year truck, honestly, and that'll cover the city for the next, well, beyond the 4 years plus the 20, probably 25 years. And so when you're talking about facing something, and, you know, we've got 4 years, you know, to plan, to account for it, and that's part of the good news. And but this is really the last item in our fleet that we need to get attention focused on for the future.
Mr. Williams.
So to Chief Gear's point, we earmarked each year. Well, first of all, let me say it's not my responsibility. It's actually Heidi's responsibility as the finance director. But you know, working with Heidi and Linda and both chiefs, we've actually tried to really focus on getting the fleets up to snuff, kind of a fix it and face it program, if you will, with our you know, our first responders vehicles, making sure that they have the equipment that they need. We were able to do some maneuvering with the police department this year. I think the point of doing this now is twofold. One is it locks the price in. You know, 4 years from now, if you figure a 10% increase each year, you know, you're looking at another close to $1 million. And, you know, who wants to pay that in 4 years? I know I don't. So it locks the price in. And then to the chief's point, we can save, or we can kind of earmark each year for the next 4 years. By the 4th year, we have the funds to pay it without trying to scramble, without negatively impacting another division, another department, another project, or anything of that nature. And then the last point is, we're actually going to pay for this out of our 302 half-cent sales tax fund. That's part of this program, as part of the program that we were able to work with our police department as well, capitalize on a great deal that, you know, another department canceled, and we were able to jump on the deal. So we were able to get them a little more up to snuff as well. So this, for as far as my opinion, I think this is a great opportunity for us to, again, lock in the price, plan for the payment, and really keep our fire fleet to the level it needs to be.
Mr. Williams, is there any grant funding out there that can go towards this if we're working with the state or other entities?
Possibly, yeah. And we've actually tasked Widow Bryan with looking for those opportunities. It may not be this year, but, you know, just because we were only earmarking a quarter payment. So if we find something in the future, maybe it covers 50% of the cost and, you know, saves us money in that direction. But yeah, we have our grant vendors looking very consistently to see what kind of opportunities, not only for fire, but also police as well, along with all the other, you know, projects that we have going on. So,
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We met with them as well for grant. You know, we're discussing the grants, and they were actually, I'll say they were impressed with the amount of grants we've already been awarded and maintained through the years. So it's, you know, it's pretty good. I think we'll have a good working relationship. They know we're not new to the game, and that we're aware of, you know, we've been putting in for everything that we can get, you know, through the years. So.
All right, thank you. Councilman Schuessler.
Just a couple questions I wanted to ask about these type of capital purchases, Mr. Williams. In terms of persistent inflationary environment, just for informational sake, I was just curious as to whether or not those were new in these contracts of that big a size, or whether they've always been there. I mean, I don't have any experience in that, so I was just wondering, when you talk about persistent inflationary environment, if the PPI goes up more than 4% in any given year, because I realize that it's 4 years to delivery. I realize that we've been in a high inflationary environment in the past, and the past is no guarantee of the future. But I was just curious as to whether that was a new thing that either Chief Gear or Mr. Williams have seen, or whether in these types of large purchases it's always in there. Just informational sake.
Yeah, I can say in the experience that I've had with it, ever since COVID, there's been a consistent, you know, lack of supply for some reason, whether it's shipping or just material in itself. And so there's been a consistent increase large increases in inflationary pricing for especially fire trucks for some reason. So large fire equipment, we've seen it.
Anything with the fire or life safety rating has gone through the roof since COVID. The other thing is that, you know, there's large departments that wanted to lock in deals as well. You know, so we're battling the county departments like Miami-Dade, you know, all in our state, Hillsborough, Tampa.
Orange.
They go in and order, you know, 10 at a time. And, you know, so that's, it's hard to, you know, and we're trying to get, you know, our foot in the door with that. You know, and it's a challenge. The one thing I will tell you that the International Association of Firefighters, along with the FPF, is looking into the whys behind what they almost feel like could be some of the control on the market, and why these are inflated so dramatically since COVID. You know, so that's going to be news to come in the next few years to see if there's anything to it.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, you know, years 3 to years 4, we knew it was going to take 4 years to deliver this truck, and in any given year, I mean, it just seems like a set price, and then, you know, if PPI, so just curious about it. Which also leads to is I imagine that there's not a lot of these manufacturers. So how many, aside from Pierce, are,
So there's not. And, one of the things that when we've looked at, we sit back and watch other even local agencies that have gone with I'm just gonna say another vendor, and that they'll have a brand new truck and they'll have their ladder stuck up in the air for 3 or 4 days on a scene because they can't get it down, nor does that vendor have the ability to come to the scene and help out, to where, Pierce Manufacturing and 10-8 Fire is right here in the city. And E1 is close, but once again, when you're talking our fleet and making a change like that for one vehicle, we've done that in the past, and we ended up regretting it. And so, there is a certain benefit to having the company right in the city, and the ease of the maintenance right here in our backyard.
I do have one question, and this may be something, I don't know if it's been done before or not, but is there any benefit, cost savings to putting a down payment? And I know if we keep the money, we get interest in things, but is there any benefit, cost savings of giving them a 25% down payment?
No.
So it used to be required, okay? So the last aerial we just did was the first truck where the down payment wasn't required anymore because they are so backlogged. They would rather everyone keep their money and hold on to it and invest it. And, and then, hey, when it's come time to pay in 4 years, you got the price locked in. If we need to back out of the deal, we can back out of the deal based on the economy.
And they got somebody that will
They got
buy
somebody
it.
that'll buy it up right like that. There are no extra trucks anymore, anywhere. So when I go to the chiefs conferences, it's like you said, there's fire chiefs out there begging any vendor to please get them a truck, and they're that desperate. Now, immediately,
There's no
if they have an accident, they have one go down mechanically. I mean, they're just filling in the gaps where we can, where they can.
So they know they're gonna sell it if somebody backs out.
Oh, exactly. Oh, 100%.
somebody
It just doesn't last on there. The stock trucks don't exist anymore. They'll be on there and they last a day because they have to put them on there. They've already got them sold.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Moore?
This hadn't occurred to me to ask this question, but you just mentioned that you were using a local vendor, which is great. But as far as process goes, like, how are we doing this now? Like, did we have to go through with this?
Procurement.
Right, yeah, with this price tag is there an alternative process that we would potentially, like, and I'm thinking future.
So we purchase on the Florida Sheriff's bid. Okay, so we usually piggyback is what we do, and you could talk to Aaron about that too, but the price is already set. And so whether you go with whatever vendor it may be, the prices are set, it's already been vetted. And I won't say it's sole source, but, our process has already been fulfilled legally.
Mr. Perry, did you have something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Mayor, no, it's not better to put a down payment on it. We'd rather keep the money and invest
But
it.
what I was saying is sometimes if you put a down payment, maybe the price is $200,000.
Yeah,
less.
no, they don't, unfortunately, they don't give us a break like that, yeah.
Because again, then they have the money to.
Correct.
To work off of it. So, that's what I'm saying, but if they don't offer that, because they don't have to, because if we backed out the day before we were getting it, they'd have it sold the next day.
Oh, yeah.
The demand is there for sure, yeah.
Pierce used to require, I think, a 25% deposit, and then there was staged payment through the 3-year build-out process. Actually, in the old days, it was probably closer to 2 years and everything. I guess I did have a question about this, Mayor and Chief, as it relates to when is the final payment due? When would a decision have to be made about whether we're moving forward, or if there was financial difficulties that we wouldn't move forward?
On the contract, you see that they put in there a range of 40 to 42 months. Talking to the 10-8, CEO and the reps, the sales, is that we would have to have that decision made before we go for our first planning trip where we do the build.
Right.
At that point, you're committed.
Yeah.
They're putting money into it, and you're committed to that build. And that's so.
But they don't start the build. I mean, with the truck we just got, they didn't start that build till, what was it, probably 6-8 months ago?
6 months.
Yeah.
6 months. Yeah.
They got a truck built. It was just in line to get built for 2 years.
Yeah, we had our place. We were notified. You have your spot in line.
Yeah.
We were planning the trip to go up.
Right.
And
By
spec
that
it
time,
out.
we would know kind of financially
Yeah,
where we
I
are.
think we would.
Exactly.
That's why I'm
The
asking.
year we're in, so. All right, perfect. All right, so we need a motion
Mr.
to,
Mayor?
push this forward? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Barnaby.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the proposal with 10-8 Fire and Safety regarding the ladder truck that we have just looked at.
Second by Ms. Coachman. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote. Ward 2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1.
Yes.
Carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
You're expensive.
Yeah, they are.
All right, Mr. Perry.
Mayor, final matter, under new business is going to be item 8C, which is the attached letter from the University of Florida as it relates to preliminary estimate of population of the city of Bradenton for the April 1st, 2025 year. I have brought these matters before you each and every year that I've been your city administrator. Every local government is basically included in an annual update of the population census, of their estimated population, and on an annualized basis. Of course, the national census is done every 10 years on the even numbered 0 years, and so they want to know, well, what's happening in between. And I believe it's probably done through a series of federal and state authorities and funding sources. I want to call it, I got to be careful about this, flagship university of the state is typically charged with the responsibility under the BEBR, which is their Bureau of Economic Statistics, basically. And they did the same thing in my prior jurisdictions. So they basically take a look at things and say, well, this is what we think that your population has grown over in the last, since the 10-year census. And they base it on, I've often thought that it's not particularly accurate because they base it, oddly enough, on things like electric meters and things like that. And if you think about electric meters, well, if we have a lot of multifamily, which are apartments here in town, and if they're master metered, then you wouldn't get a meter for each unit. A 3-bedroom unit would have more people that live in it than a 1-bedroom unit and things like that. So it doesn't get very granular. But the numbers before us really look at a 2020 census population of the city of Bradenton of 55,698. And to the April 25 census estimate is at 58,469. That represents, I did some quick math, about a 5.6% growth rate over that 5 period. And if you extract it on an annualized basis, it's going to be roughly over 1%, 1.25% per year, which is a positive growth rate. People are coming. But I think we've seen higher growth rates, in Southwest Florida, and particularly down here, and even more over in the multifamily and types of projects that have been going on. We don't have large swaths of subdivisions for single-family homes, although we do have some that have been developed. But generally speaking, I think our larger growth has probably been in that multifamily area. But at any rate, you can contest it and notify them what your basis is. I don't think it has a great deal of significance. There's certain designations of municipal governments and local governments that are over a certain amount that get certain preferential eligibility requirements for grants, small start grants opposed to larger grants, things like that. But it really doesn't have very much of an impact. And so it's more for informational purposes that I'm submitting it to you, that I've basically signed it and sent it back to the University of Florida.
So basically adding a few numbers to it, if we thought it was off a little bit, probably wouldn't change any of the income for us.
Right.
What we would get would have to be significantly different one way or the other.
That would be my understanding.
Right, yep.
I'm an expert in that field.
Well,
But
possibly if they would
Yes.
go to the Florida State University, they'd get more accurate count.
Perhaps.
As a basketball school, University
better
of
watch
Florida,
out.
national champs, and gymnastics and quite a few other sports.
I actually don't know why they typically put it at the one university over the other.
It's
But
central.
The oldest university.
It may be. I think generally speaking, though, the states are able to designate one university for their Bureau of Economic and Business Research, and that's where it's always vested.
Right.
Yep.
Councilwoman Coachman.
Yes, thank you. I'm not going to refer at all to the university that did this, but I mean, any variance, a plus or minus, because I'll be honest, I don't feel like this is as accurate, but it's probably as accurate as they can possibly, because you don't know who's here and who's not, if they're here. But you know what I mean? Like the multifamily unit may have 8 people as opposed to 4 or what have you. My question is, when will we look at our population in terms of the density in each ward? Because I'm assuming that at one point, when the charter was written, that you divided the city into 5 wards, trying to be a balance of some sort. And I have a feeling that's not.
It was done since I've been on the council.
It's been changed a few
It
times.
was done
Yeah.
where boundaries changed a little bit because of the way the
way
east
the
had grown.
population had-
Right,
yeah.
so that's something that, I don't know if we do it or the supervisor of elections, but that was gonna be my
Yeah.
I
question.
think my experience has been is that generally after the I forget the decennial census or the 10-year census basically is typically what would happen is that the local governments would look at a potential for quote redistricting to make sure that the populations are in accordance with certain legal principles that represent one person, one vote, and other factors. Most people, I think, that do that would argue that it's usually done, and particularly in more recent times, the last 20 years, for political redistricting purposes.
Well, it doesn't matter in our town because you vote for everybody.
Right, and I
If you were
think that's
voting
the
by
thing.
district,
Exactly.
it
And that-
doesn't change it, yeah.
I understand that, and in our case, it's no way they would assume that we're trying to play with the numbers. I'm just saying, in terms of if we really want to be more balanced. I mean, I was a little upset when I found out that parts of what I thought was Ward 5 on the south side of Manatee Avenue is Ward 4. And of course, if I look at the income level of that area, I'm like, why? So I guess.
It was numbers based.
It was numbers based
Right.
then.
Because
But
you had to they tried to come up with the 5 wards, and if there's 500 people in your town, it was 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, as we know, so that's how, or 50,000. They try to get where there's 10,000 in each.
and was this
balance.
wasn't annexed at some point, was it?
No, I don't remember exactly, but again, in 2020, I asked that question before I ran for mayor, and it was said that it had been rebalanced after the time.
I just
so.
wonder, I mean, I don't know what the process is, I don't know, have we, I mean, I guess, was it
Yeah,
in
we-
2020
every-
that we looked at it?
After every census.
Okay, well,
So would-
I haven't heard that I mean,
technically, it would be done now
Okay.
after 2030.
maybe that's,
Yeah, but again, it doesn't say that you can't redo it at any time if your town grew differently.
so,
don't
I mean,
think.
so have we, I mean, since the 2020 census, we have
I'm not
looked at-
aware of it since I've
I
been here
didn't
in
think so
2020.
either, I had not heard anything about it, so we doing it, I didn't hear
We
about it.
didn't redo it because it was still balanced. It's not on geographic area, it's on numbers.
That's what
If they
I'm,
don't do just, well, Manatee Avenue to this square is so many. They do it because of the geographic numbers in an area. And I think downtown used to be in a different ward, then it changed because it's.
Yeah, I could see that happening,
Sometimes people, I've
especially
seen
with the
people
density
switch
where-
because, well, now I live over here and I just want to stay in Ward 4, so they draw out an area, so now that area.
I mean,
is in
I've
the
seen
ward.
some spotty
I'm not picking on Ward
things
4.
on the
No,
map,
right, yeah,
on the
it's
map. I
really
mean, we
shady.
have some
Ours
parts
is all
of the,
screwy now.
parts of the city that's surrounded by the county, and it's
Right.
like this 2
Yeah.
or 3 houses that are
That's
in
why
it.
it's hard to do even ours, because it's so discombobulated with city and county boundaries.
The one good news I can tell you is that I think because it's, because it's a citywide section for election of city councilors and of course the mayor is, it's virtually, it would seem to me, pretty impossible to do what they call gerrymandering, which is good. But I understand what you're saying.
You wouldn't be doing that.
Right.
In terms of us, because it's a citywide
No.
vote. I'm just saying, it would be great if we were more balanced, so that when Ward 4 citizens are upset and they're calling Councilwoman Moore, she doesn't have 600 calling her, and Councilwoman Barnaby has 400 calling
Sure.
her. You know,
Right.
that's all I'm
They
saying.
just walk over to my house.
Oh, believe me, I'm in the same situation. They catch me outside, and it's over then. I've increased my securities because of that. But I'm just curious, and that's all. I mean, it's not gerrymandering or political purposes. I'm just saying, in terms of the change in the density of the areas, especially with us now building up more than, I just wanted to see how the numbers fell, that's all.
Yes.
I think that is actually a really interesting question. I would be curious as well. Also, I don't know that I ever asked this before, but since you're raising this and it's really more of an academic curiosity, although I think it's a very good, valid question, because I think it also could be not only representation, but also services, you know, how we plan for where the trucks are going to drive and all that kind of thing.
So be careful what you wish for, and I'm just saying this because you could live in an area that now could get zoned out of your area if you say, I live in this house, but the population has grown differently, and you make a map without gerrymandering,
Right.
more of a square, then sometimes the numbers could change where you live, should be somewhere.
Yeah.
Now you're in Ward 3, but you live in Ward 4 or
Right.
whatever, so.
Yeah,
And
no,
again, I think that's why the
And
census
would
comes
that-
up.
Why would that matter, though?
Well, then
wouldn't
you
be
wouldn't be able to
serve.
serve,
Represent.
represent.
I'm not worried.
But I'm not saying you, I'm
No,
just saying in general.
But I'm just saying, I just still say it.
Doesn't matter to
I'm
me,
just-
I can
yeah,
do
just
anything
curious.
in my position.
Just
but it's
curious, that's
by,
all.
you know,
Because, I mean, let's face it, Ward 5 has, there's a image, okay? Just like how you wanted 14th Street to no longer be called 14th Street, the Tamiami Trail. That's what I'm saying. If we in reality could really look at the numbers and say, Ward 5 is not a black ward, or Ward 5 is not a poor ward. You know, that's what I'm saying. Just trying to balance
Ward
things
5,
out.
in my opinion, would actually get smaller geographically
Because of the density.
The density,
yeah.
right, so that would be,
I got
you know,
you.
that could, Ward 4 could grow more,
Wow.
and Ward 3 could grow more right now. Now, in 2030, when you have all the building we're doing, that could totally change it, and that's why,
but-
you don't want to be changing it every
Yeah.
2 or 3 years.
But
That's why you
again,
do it every 10 years.
since this is a citywide vote, and should it stay that way, I pray, then this is just a mute.
Yeah, you look at the school district, they changed to single voter districts.
Yeah.
And now they're redistricting, and it's
Yeah,
not
well,
as easy as it could
that-
be.
and that's not my intent in terms of that. I just wanted to, I mean, I've seen the boundaries change throughout the years, and just, you know,
After the timing of the census, so, yep.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
I don't know that we need a motion on this, it's just
No.
information.
No,
and
no.
Yeah,
no, I was just going
Yeah.
to say it, historically, when you have citywide voting versus single-member districts, historically, they have said it's more difficult for women and minorities to get elected when it is a citywide vote, but apparently.
how's that working out for me?
I was going to say, apparently, worked out just fine for us.
Well, and again, that's not guaranteed in this.
Understood.
In this,
I think
either
it-
way, as it is now, or if it changes.
I think it speaks to the quality of those individuals that step up and want to help.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
All right, you ready? All right, anything else, Mr. Perry?
No, sir,
All
thank you.
right, moving on to unfinished business. Anything unfinished, Mr. Perry?
No, sir.
All right, council reports, we'll start in Ward 5.
Oh, no. Gosh. Well, I think I've stirred enough right now, so I'll just say that today's meeting definitely probably set a record. 2 hours before we got to consent, or even citizen comments, I believe. Quite interesting, and I hope the public really does. Those that aren't here, I hope they do look back at the YouTube video so that they can hear a little bit more about all the research that's being done in our water system, because there is a lot of chatter out there. And research is just like beauty. Beauty is within the eye of the beholder. Research sometimes can be in the eye of whoever's trying to prove something. But it was great to hear how this research is done. They have no skin in the game. It's other than just providing the pure facts. But I do think it's interesting that they look at there's so many factors that can impact the water quality from one Tuesday to the next. It's just, I mean, it probably would be very difficult to even do that kind of research to pinpoint, oh, well, it was windy this day and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it was just great. And I agree with you, Councilwoman Barnaby. Mr. Tomasco is really good at making something very complicated seem simple enough that laymen can follow it. Thank you to all that approved the assistance with the company that wants to bring SUG apartment complex, housing complex to this century. Because they are old. They're old. I think those buildings are older than me.
60s.
Oh, they might not be older. But anyway, they're close. And I know they really need updating. I had some other notes, but now I guess I put them on another page and thinking I was on that same page. It's so much going on in Ward 5. The Housing Authority in particular, I mean, it just voted on a new interim executive director, because you mentioned that Mr. Mitchell is retiring, and that's quite a job he did for a decade, the kinds of things that he had to deal with, and the various hats he's had to wear because of staffing and so forth. So I hope that this incoming executive director has a little more luck with staffing and all of that, but it's pretty exciting what's going on in the Housing Authority, along with all of us, the county and so forth and all on another side. I am just gonna leave it at that, since I stirred up the bee's nest already, the hornet's nest already. I'll just say, as always, Ward 5 is definitely alive.
Good, thank you. Ward 1.
Thank you. I don't have much except, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but the anxiety is almost palpable right now in society and here. And some of the letters and the rhetoric and the social media, while we have disagreements, I feel like everything has just been this protest mentality. Let's protest this, and I'd like to challenge some people that let's try and channel that energy with efforts towards being positive. So you're angry about the removal of the public art in the streets. Well, why don't we start focusing on efforts towards Realize Bradenton's BAMFest, or get involved with our public art board? I just feel like there's so much negative energy being afforded, and let's try to channel it more into a positive way. There are definitely challenges, and I'd like to take everybody's temperature down a little bit, because some of these letters are from people that I know are very intelligent, and while I might not always agree with them, the angriness that's coming from from people, and I know that they care about our city. I would just challenge them, let's try to, you know, have more positive energy than negative. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Barnaby, Ward 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have much. Would just like to offer sympathy and condolences to the family of Reverend Johnny Searles, who not only was someone who grew up here and graduated from a local high school here, but many years served as a bus driver in our school system, which, you know, I would say he carried our future. So condolences to his wife Camille and his family. He will be missed.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ward 3.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of this was touched on in discussions earlier, so I won't get too in-depth about it. But as the new guy, I was kind of driving around the ward and the city in general, and Councilwoman Moore's area, and looking at some of the projects that we spoke of earlier, and then again in Ward 3. And I came to mind about, it's so often said, and Ms. Coker touched on it as well, that you know, it's only human nature that what's right in front of you, you'll automatically want fixed immediately and changed, and why aren't you doing that? But as I drove over to this one sewer project that was new to me, 25th Avenue West and 22nd Street, it came to mind, wow, the city is really solving problems that we didn't even know that we had. So I just wanted to mention that as, you know, in my discovery, that there is a lot going on with the city staff that we're, you know, very thankful of due to the forward thinking of the city staff. The other thing I wanted to mention is I definitely have issues every year with 9/11, with September 11th. I was involved in the financial community for upwards of 25 years, and I do not like September 10th. I do not like September 11th or September 12th, just because of what it brings. There is a silver lining that I'm going to get into in a minute. This is not to take away from the proclamation that was earlier. I think it'll just pay additional homage to it. But let's pay respect to all of the citizens that lost their lives or their loved ones that day. Let's remember that 3,000 individuals lost, or around 3,000, 2,977 individuals lost their lives that day in between Pennsylvania and the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. Countless more, especially first responders, it's in the news, have lost their lives due to illness after it. Additionally, and these are all adults now, but 3,000 children, 3,056 if I have the number right. It's either somewhere around 3,000 children under the age of 18 lost a parent that day. These are not only traders and bankers, but food service workers, insurance agents, telephone workers, and then obviously all of the first responders. That number really would have been so much more if it weren't, I don't know, I wanted to put it in context. If everyone knew that previous to 9/11, there was a bomb that went off in the garage of the World Trade Center 7 or 8 years before. Well, what that meant to me as an upstairs trader was, wow, we've already been there. We're bulletproof. We've been through it. The city is sound. So to go back personally for 2 seconds or 20 seconds and speak about that day, upstairs traders and bankers, in a perfect scenario, you match a buyer with the seller and you keep it in-house. That happens sometimes. Usually what happened was you had to reach out, cross lines, and get with your counterparts, many times competitors, to find the other side of the trade. So at 7:45 to 8:15 that morning, you're restricted to what you could say, but you could call your counterparts and your competitors and say, I'm going to be involved in ABC stock today. And so will I. And that's how you found the other side of the trade. So as that was going on, you learned very quickly who your friends are and who your counterparts are. And in between, there was a lot of aggression, good and bad. But as a result of that event, and even up leading to it, you found out very quickly who your frenemies were. It was competitive every day, but we had respect. We always appreciated the difference in individuals. From 7:45 a.m. that day to 8:15, that's when those calls occurred. They were upstairs calls. You had direct lines, hundreds of them, into Cantor Fitzgerald, Keith Brouette, all the competitors we know of. And during that time, as you're discussing and sometimes arguing, no, I'm going to take that order away from this person, you got the Kemp, hug your neighbor, hug your family. This is really bad up here. And it was somewhat because they thought it was bulletproof that they were told to stay on. Now, some of those levels were marked off, but thanks to the first responders, get out now, you need to get out now. There were countless lives that were saved because of it. The silver lining in all of this is after that, the city, you respected your differences, black, white, yellow, green, regardless of, any differences, we could all agree to respect each other. And I think somewhat to Mayor Jean's comment earlier that this new generation is somewhat unaware of that. There is a lot of good that comes through competition. There is a silver lining in terms of what happened that day. And hug your families. God bless America.
Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was really well said and touching, really. And I think it also kind of speaks to what we do up here, which is have that little tension, you know?
Absolutely.
I think when we had coffee that morning, I told you that the goal of the coffee date was to hear what you cared about in Ward 3 and to share with you what I cared about in Ward 4. And that is what I kind of view us doing up here, because I don't know. I can't, yes, exactly, because I don't know. I don't live that experience every day. So I appreciate you all supporting, what to a small group of people is something that's super important, but also just a feel of a community, It's just, I think I mentioned earlier before the meeting started that I was just having this sense of frustration because it doesn't look great. It looks, depressing. But I appreciate everyone, indulging me and letting me let you all know, when I'm distressed, I want to share it. But for the good of the whole, because I hope that you all would share with me something that was really, concerning in your ward or citywide. So anyways, thank you for the support, and we'll just keep on doing what we're doing.
Thank you. So every family has dynamics. And when you look at any time, even in family situations, there's going to be button heads and getting along and doing different things. But I think we have a great family up here. And obviously, we can't talk offline very often. We have to talk up here and kind of air some of our concerns and good things and other things that we deal with. And I just think that it's important to focus. We may say some things when we're talking about what's going on or how things are going, but a lot of times it's just the frustration because we want things instant. And this world is instant now. And some things just aren't instant. So we just really got to focus on doing what we can do day to day, getting things done, and seeing how fast we can get them done. And I think that's important to keep pushing. But we also got to have people understand that just because you yell and scream or you think something's going to break tomorrow, that it can't be fixed the next day sometimes. And that's where it's frustrating to us as well, because we want it fixed right away. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't think anyone up on this dais, anybody out in the audience now, other than two media people and one citizen, everyone else is staff or works for the city in some way. we're all trying to get things done quicker. And believe me, we would want that to be done tomorrow if it could be, because we don't want to hear it. There's things that we have to do that come down from state and federal level. Sometimes we don't want to do them, but we also got to protect the whole. And that's what we'll continue to do, to work for the good of the whole while still listening and taking some of those criticisms that maybe we deserve, maybe we don't. But we're going to try to make your city better and our city better. And that's the most important thing. So I appreciate it. And any department head stuff before we close it out? Nobody standing up? Chief Kramer?
I'll have to stand up. Speaking of not being able to fix things right away, there's been a lot of complaints about, I'm going to say Tamiami Trail, but more of a 14th Street mentality of Tamiami Trail, which is homeless, drugs, mess. In the spirit of face it and fix it, we're doing that. Our CRT units are primarily not tasked with just one certain area. The last couple weeks, they've been assisting primarily with the homicide investigation to try to target individuals and help out the detectives and getting some stuff done, and we're getting pretty close to wrapping that up. But they've been tasked with targeting 14th Street. Yesterday, they made 2 arrests on narcotics, and then patrol is handling some issues at specific businesses on 14th Street, which continue to have trouble. The idea is to get the business owners on board to understand that it's in their best interest to have business coming there, and hopefully our tactics will make that work. But we just want to give you a heads up on that. Also want to thank the Knights of Columbus from Our Lady of the Angels Catholic Church out in Lakewood Ranch for inviting us to the first responder mass yesterday. Keith Green's a member of that. He's the one who's really our contact. Very well attended event by their parishioners and by a lot of police and fire services throughout the county. So, and by you all. Thank you for representing as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin? Ms. Singer? Sorry.
Just inform you, we're working through some code enforcement issues. We visited Ward 4 based on some of the things that were brought up at the last meeting. If you have specific properties or streets that you're seeing a predominance of code enforcement violations, please let us know. We'd like to take a targeted approach. I think everybody in the city is a little overgrown right now with the amount of rain we've been having. That's also prohibiting people from getting out there and mowing their lawns. But there are properties that's been a chronic issue, and we really want to get on top of that before it gets much worse, because I think once they get worse, then the neighbors get worse, and it kind of works on through. I did speak with the gentleman who was here before with a complaint about the one property, and surprisingly, it doesn't really have, other than putting a sticker on the building, hasn't had a long code enforcement history on that. So we're going to have the building official go out there and see if it in fact is an unsafe structure. I prefer to, if it's an unsafe structure, pursue demolition than trying to pursue that through a code enforcement case leading to foreclosure, because we find that people will buy those structures thinking they can fix them up, and we don't we don't want to go down that path. So we're going to work with the police department and pursue what we can pursue in that case. You've probably been hearing a lot about Cottonmouth and some complaints. I think, in particular, they've been we're dealing with those. Cottonmouth has filed an appeal of an administrative determination. That has to run its course. And after that, I think we talked about a workshop item to discuss how we might treat these kind of issues in the Village of the Arts. So we'll try to set that for a future date, for a future workshop item to discuss solutions to that. And I think that's all I have.
Questions for Ms. Singer?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and I'll just remind everybody, I want to do it at the end with a tribute to Heroes memorial service tomorrow at Rossi Park at 9 a.m. And our Fire Chiefs Association really does all of that and does a great job. And one thing for Kemp, you know, if he's a first time coming or been there, but they not only talk about the heroes, but we also talk about the 2,977 people that lost their lives, and sometimes there's family members, even at ours, and different things. So, you know, we kind of gear towards the first responders, but they also, you know, and I remember sitting there as it's happening, as September 11th, at one point they thought that could be over 10,000 people in those two buildings. And it was a day that many, for whatever reason, took that day off. And so Boomer Esiason and his foundation and all their staff.
Howard Ludnick.
Yeah, it's people that you could just.
Child to kindergarten.
Yeah, yeah, so just, you know, it was, I don't think the cowards that caused that picked 9/11. I don't think they were smart enough to pick that day. It just happened because they were supposed to do it the day before. And some of the plane things got changed, but, you know, it touches everybody in different ways, and it's still, we've got to get this generation now to feel that, because, you know, people remember where they were when John F. Kennedy was shot. They remember other major issues, Pearl Harbor, you know, that most of the people that, if there's anybody alive at Pearl Harbor, I think that's just about gone. But if we don't, in a way, celebrate what the history meant to us, we'll never remember that. And, you know, there's enough stuff that goes on that we don't control. Some of those things in this country we want to control. And I am going to say this, I would just like to put out a prayer and a thought to every family member that has somebody that was murdered in this country, especially recently. And we just saw one on a mass transit in Charlotte, North Carolina, that, you know, is sad. And, you know, and again, one of the reporters that tried to minimize it a little bit said, well, there's murders all the time in all cities and counties in our country. Well, that doesn't minimize when there's something we can do as a community to try to help individuals so it doesn't get to that point. So, you know, you can say what you want to say politically, but you know what? That's somebody's life. And all the other people that are shot, whether it's crime related or just, you know, you're sitting on a train going home from work, we got to do what we can to help that in all communities so it doesn't happen. And, you know, you can't police your way out of it, but you can sure work to try to help people. And if the police help that, if code enforcement helps, if other things help it, then we got to do it. So if there's nothing else, we'll be adjourned. Thank you.